The seagulls follow the trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. I knew we'd go at the same time.
I didn't know, Phil. I know you've been having a couple of technical issues. I thought I better get the yes in there at the beginning just in case you weren't there, mate. Apologies.
Double yes, because what I did is I cut the intro short. If you watched the TNF last night, you will know that the Gremlins were out to get us from the start. And once again, the Gremlins were out to get me again because it was stalling and freezing during the intro. So I was like, I can cut the intro short and just come in, but me and Russell obviously came out at exactly the same time. I cut it at the exact point. It did end on Russell's screen. Right. But hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Bustalgia. Here we are. Is not only have we time travelled, look at the background. We've actually went to another country as well. Look at this beautiful Cape Town in the background there. Yeah, because we are in South Africa for this one. And of course, as I mentioned last night, if you've only discovered the Boise Bus somewhere after the season started and you're familiar with Bustalgia and the Celtic years, you might not know it, but this is how Bustalgia started. We're taking it back to its roots and going to talk about World Cups and Euros. And of course, we got up to Euro 2008. So the next one in line was this World Cup, the 2010 World Cup, the Vuvuzela World Cup. Oh boy, oh boy. If you remembered at the time, I wasn't looking forward to talking about this, but I'm feeling in a much better place mentally now to speak about this one, even though watching the goal highlights and hearing that droning, that buzzing noise took me right back with post-traumatic stress disorder. But don't worry, folks, we're going to get through it. Because as you can see, I've got an expert team with me here tonight. We've got Russell Boyce. Welcome back, Russell. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I've been in the wilderness for a few days, man. I've just about got my yin and yang back together. It's crazy as you get older. I mean, I have the best fun now ever on mode. I mean, I go to Glasgow on a Tuesday and I feel right by the Friday. And a couple of things that happened, like just not proud of, mate. Not proud of. A bit embarrassing. But you know what? You know, you covered me last night, and you had to be honest with you. But yes, I'm verging on being back to normal. And by the way, the World Cup shows we did, as great as they were, can only be supplemented by the man below us. That takes it to the next level, mate. That takes it to the next level. So yes, Liam, we've got something else to call upon.
Yeah, this is your first World Cup Bustalgia, Liam. Are you excited? I mean, I apologise in advance. It has to be this World Cup, you know, the Vuvuzela one, but you still looking forward to it, mate?
I brought my Vuvuzela.
Oh, look at that. Oh, there you go. Aye, he's got his own Vuvuzela with him, a homemade one right there. Now, before we go any further, I will obviously do all the good stuff. But before I do even the good stuff, Russell, there's something that you want to talk about. So what I'm going to do for the benefit of the people watching, because there's a logo on the screen, but my screen is partly covering it up. I'll take myself off the screen just now, so it's just the two of you, and people can see that logo in the top corner, and you can explain why it's there and what it's the reasons why we put it up there tonight and what it's important for. So I'll be back in a moment.
No worries. So yes, you will see at the top, the Brain Tumour charity. Obviously, we were talking on the bus stop a couple of weeks ago about ways and means that we could get involved. And as always in life, if you don't chase something, it falls on your lap, that sort of thing. And incredibly, it's a cause that means a lot to one of our viewers, Gregor, but he also happens to own, or he's the manager, I should say, in the Old Inn pub in Dunfermline. I was in touch with him recently. He wants me to host an event they're doing next week where everyone's shaving their head. I am not shaving my head, right? But those who are doing it, fair play to them. Obviously, it's someone that's very close to them. Shelley, who's, as you can imagine, had a brain tumour, is the reason for it. And it's been great to actually, because Gregor likes the channel, he was like, would you be involved? Would you be up for getting involved? And I was like, look, if you're doing it, I think it's next Friday is the live event. But yes, they are raising money. They've got 770 out of their 1,000. I know what yous are like on this bus. So there is at the top of the live chat a pinned link that we are going to be sharing all this week. Hopefully, whatever you've got, I'm not expecting everyone to be chucking in money. I know there's a cost of living crisis out there, and you need to be conscious of that sometimes as well when you are promoting charities. But when you hear the story about Shelley, and you'll see that on the link, it hits home, the age of someone having to go through that, and you go, fucking hell, it's just not right. And the fact that, obviously, they've said to me, will you MC it was the term, you'll be familiar with that term, Liam. I was like, well, yeah, it's the least I can do. I says, we'll do more than that. We're going to get Gregor on, a good Celtic man. So we're going to talk some Celtic with him as well on Sunday, not the live show with Kaiser, but we'll do a pre-recorded one, and he'll properly give you an insight as to what this charity is all about. And that's something we want to get involved in more going forward. And what not a better platform than one that gets 30,000-40,000 views a month, Liam? It's the least we can do to help these sort of people. Do you know what I mean? Or these sort of causes, more importantly. I'm not always the best at that sort of thing. So definitely my New Year's resolution for the bus will be how I can get more actively involved in that and start utilising, the platform that we're lucky to have. We've built ourselves, but now you're in that position of strength. I think it's important that you give a bit back. And Gregor and Co at the Old Inn in Dunfermline, I will be there hosting on Friday. Absolutely. And the links are there. And then Gregor's going to come on. We'll do a wee interview with him, and he'll explain in far better depth and detail just what it is Shelley's went through. And we'll have a proper chat about it. And hopefully you guys can, if you can, and I need to be very conscious of that because I know the times we all live in right now as well, particularly in the UK. Not maybe yourselves badly, Liam, but in the UK, the cost of living is crazy right now. So I'm not here demanding, money off people. That's far from the remit. But we want to be here also promoting an amazing cause. And if you can help, then the links will be there on the channel leading up to Friday. And hopefully I'll do them a good wee turn on Friday hosting, and I'll do my best. That's the least I can do, though. And as I say, Gregor's a good Celtic man, and he wants to come on, and yeah, we'll chat a wee bit about football with him. You'll get to know him a wee bit, and then he'll explain, as I say, everything that's happened so far. Anyway, with all that said, we'll get cracked on with Bustalgia.
Well said, Russell. I'll better move this so that we're facing each other.
Nice.
So I've seen people in the chat say, no, face each other, giving me cross eyes. But no, well said there, Russell. I can relate. I've lost a family member through my mother had a tumour in her kidney, but the boy who was in the room next door to her, and Marie Curie, he had a brain tumour, and he was 30 years old, the same age that I was. My mother passed away. So it's scary stuff. It really is. It's very, very scary stuff. But as Russ says, there's a link pinned in the top comment on the chat. There's also in the description of the video, there's also a link to the Just Giving page there. So either way that you can get to it, there's two options to get there. But yeah, massively appreciated anything you can contribute to it. That would be phenomenal. And so we will crack on. So just a quick reminder again about all the good stuff as well. Just remember to comment, like, subscribe, and share, and all the things that help the channel massively, because we appreciate it's over 3,000 people have subscribed so far. So that's quite a good ringing endorsement, I think, up to now. So if you want to be another one, just join the passengers, join the bus, then don't be afraid, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it massively. Now, gentlemen, would you like a wee trivia question to start the show? As a wee trivia question, by the way, it's no too bad. I've went very easy on using this one.
This is a test of where my mental well-being bloody is right now, Phil. Do you know what I mean? I've been rock bottom this week. I've been from all the highs to all the lows. So this will be a good test. If I can get any of these right, mate, that'll tell me that I'm back in the room. Back in the room, mate.
There's only 5 answers to this one. I don't think it's too difficult, to be honest. So basically, this World Cup is obviously in South Africa. It was the first World Cup on African soil. So I'm just looking for the names of the 5 top African goal scorers at all World Cups. When you put them all together, the 5 top ones. So obviously on Monday we did the sudden death, and it was relating to top goal scorers at World Cups. There was an African player in there. But yeah, there are another 4 as well that make up the top 5 African goal scorers at World Cups. So yeah, we will come back to that. But it's only 5 of them. Only 5 of them. What was that, Liam?
Does one of them have a relationship to Celtic?
No, they don't. I'm looking at the 5 of them just now. No, none of them have any sort of connection to Celtic. Haven't played for Celtic at any point. But the lowest number of goals is 3. So it's cumulative as well.
Than it sounds. That is tough.
Okay, no worries then. But we'll revisit that at the end of the show, guys. So yeah, let's get back at the swing of things then. Bustalgia back at its roots here. Let's go back to the year 2010, and this is a year that we've not actually covered at any point on Bustalgia. Where we've done the Celtic years, and obviously this is the first time we've landed in this year for this tournament. So, as usual, I'll go over the big football winners in the summer of 2010. So, Champions League winner, it was Jose Mourinho's all-conquering Inter Milan side. They beat Bayern Munich 2-0 in the final. It was held in Madrid. Diego Milito, Argentinian striker, scored both goals on the night. And the Europa League final that year, surprise finalist Fulham, who you might remember beat Juventus quite dramatically along the way. They came up a little bit short against Atletico Madrid in the final, held in Hamburg, and it was Diego Forlan that scored both the goals there as they won 2-1. But interestingly enough, I mentioned Jose Mourinho's Inter there. We'll get back to them at some point during the show, because there's a certain player in that team that plays a big part of this World Cup, and he's a big talking point. And interestingly enough, with Diego Forlan scoring the 2 goals in the Europa League final, he had quite a big World Cup as well, because his nation, Uruguay, yeah, they were the panto villains, I think, along the way. But Forlan was definitely the peak of his powers at this point, I would say.
So was Jose, I would say. I think that, and I think. You're told that tiki-taka team were the best team, in the world. Pep Guardiola is the messiah. Well, this is now Jose's second Champions League win with a very unfashionable side to do it with. I know people say, well, Inter Milan's a far cry from Porto. You might think that, but I would say 2010, you're looking at an Italian league that's trying to really repair itself after the Juve scandal. I think sponsorship's massively been withdrawn from the Italian league. They went from, again, the peaks and troughs. I'm talking about maybe my week out. I mean, the peaks and troughs that, Serie A went from, Liam, when you consider the shows we've done on this already, talking about the Crespos, the Vieiris at £30 million, the Verons at £30 million. This was the early 2000s, mid-2000s, and then it crashed this league. I think when Mourinho's went there from Chelsea as well, it was one hell of a job to get an Inter Milan team that weren't always synonymous, but despite, Ronaldo, who we've spoke about in the channel and things, they weren't synonymous with dominating Italian football in this time, let alone European football. And I think his achievements in this go way, way, way under the radar. I think what Mourinho did there is one hell of an achievement. Obviously, he done the trick once with Porto, but I also think there was sometimes in the stars align, and I think Porto happened to have a real plethora of out of nowhere top players, right? Because they all kind of spread out, that Porto team, and went on to sort of be part of some of the bigger clubs in European football because they were that good. Whereas that Inter team, when he did it, I think there was guys at the end of their careers. I think there was guys salvaging their careers. I think that job he's done there is a joke. I think it's totally underestimated. I don't know what you think about that, but I think his European Cup triumph with Inter Milan I think that is testament to how good you need to be as a manager to do that, and how good he clearly is.
I think the big transfer that he pulled off before that season, one of the shrewdest deals, Zlatan swapped for Samuel Eto'o. Remember that? The Zlatan went to Barca and it never quite worked out, and Eto'o was sent to Inter Milan and ended up winning the treble. That was one of the shrewdest moves, that one, because Eto'o was phenomenal when he went in or under Mourinho. Superb player. Have you ever seen both of you guys seen it's a video on YouTube, is it Coach's Masterclass? It's like they sit with the tactics board in front of them. Mourinho has got one up where he talks about that game against Barca, the semi-final. It's a phenomenal lesson.
It's a masterclass.
Yeah, it's a masterclass. It is, yeah, and how they counteracted Messi in particular, because he really is just... He's just, I mean, he's always been good, Messi, but at this point, you know, he's won back-to-back Ballon d'Ors in 2010, essentially. So, yeah, he's really, you know, the guy, the top man in world football at that point, and they just marked him out the game.
A couple of things that are interesting as well.
Can you believe the amount of love you two are throwing at the wee bastard that cheated us to a European final? Sorry, man. Keep it strong. I hate him forever. I want him to win nothing after that.
I know. No, I get it. I generally think Celtic were a team that were streetwise, and then there was another level streetwise. And I think Celtic had more experience than the team probably across the park, but whatever Mourinho had taught those boys what to do and when to do it was very clever. We almost at times in that final looked naive. You know, almost looked naive to the streetwise. And I know you want a pure game, but it's never been like that. It's never been like that.
No. Dark arts, man, and he got rewarded for that. His career skyrocketed after that. And usually it's like most people don't resort to that. He went right for the start. So I like him in interviews and all that, but I'm always bitter against him. Deny him.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. Nothing wrong with that. I get it. I
don't
know.
Over it yet.
I don't know. I don't think it was. I think when you look back at it and you see players throwing themselves at the deck and stuff. I mean, I look at football now and I go, you know, he was either ahead of the curve or everyone's copied it. Right? Either way, I don't even think what you've seen in that final now. I think in comparison and contrast to that Celtic team in 2003, it stuck out a lot more because we didn't have we had men, right? And whilst I admire that, I actually don't even think maybe that team nowadays would be even one of the top 5 worst. Honestly, I don't. I think when you watch football now, it's almost a hard watch because of the throwing themselves to the ground. I don't know if you have noticed, particularly with this World Cup. I know it's a World Cup show, but they're now dropping to their knees when they get booked. I don't know how that's going to save you, mate. But yeah, I think the theatrics and things. I don't know. I think sometimes you need to understand if you've not got as good a group of players, what you could do. And let's be honest here as well. I think under Celtic under O'Neill, I think we were very acutely aware at set pieces and things, what to do. And I've spoken about Sutton with Ayala standing on his toes when no one's looking. You know, that's still naughty as well. Do you know what I mean? As much as I'm all for it, I think at times when the odds are against you, you've got to resort to that. But yeah, 2010 was, you know, I think that was Mourinho's arguably his finest ever doing that with that Milan team because of who he had to beat on the way there.
Yes, indeed. By the way, quick shout out to Ian Barr in the chat. It's his 49th birthday today, the local Darlington fan that pops into the chat. Yes. Happy birthday, Ian, mate. Happy 49th. And but yeah,
I'm sure that's about his 3rd birthday since he started jumping in the comments box.
Oh, right, okay. But no, regarding the Mourinho stuff, we'll also be coming back to that later on because one of the talking points during the show will be so I'm quite glad that Russell, you're on this time because I know we've got a very contrasting emotions towards Mourinho because obviously I know that Liam, when we did the Seville season 1, you were very much that, and as you just said there, so yeah, we've got a contrasting debate, and that's what the bus is all about. It's about differing opinions. Yeah, it's all about we're allowed to disagree on here, you know. So yeah, that'll be interesting when we get to that later on, because there's a player at this World Cup who was part of that Inter team that had a very good World Cup, overlooked for a massive honour that year, and I still don't understand why. But we'll quickly go through the rest of the big winners for 2010.
Can I just very quickly say as well, just very, very quickly before, because I know obviously you're going to go through all the winners, the runners and riders, you know, who dominated. But very quickly as well, you were just saying the reason Inter won that, a huge reason, was getting rid of Zlatan. Not getting rid, but player trading model was allowing Ibrahimovic to go and Eto'o to come in. Yet Ibrahimovic talks about his spell at Inter as being maybe his favourite spell because of the connection he had with Mourinho. That tells you the relationship they had, how ruthless you have to be as a manager. And is it what Ange is touching on, that they might be your hero, but even if they need to go, we'll replace, and it'll be for the best of the team. And I think that's what Mourinho did. I don't think he probably wanted to get rid of an Ibrahimovic. I don't think Ange would want to lose, if you like, a Juranovic. But this is the trajectory the big clubs need to go to start having success. You need to say goodbye to some of your heroes, and you do it for the benefit of the team. And I think that's what we're seeing now, just to be an example of that. Sorry, just to tie it back in with Celtic, I think that's...
Well, you look at what Zlatan did when he went to Barca and how he didn't go on with Pep, and who's the guy that Mourinho all through his career always gets compared to? Is like Pep is like the hero of football and Jose's the Antichrist, and it's like Zlatan himself says his best time was playing under Jose. He went to Barcelona and it just didn't work. You would have thought a striker like Zlatan with Pep as his manager, how can it go wrong? But just didn't work. Just didn't work for him at all. But that speaks volumes, I think, if he's talking up Mourinho in that sense. Now, speaking of Mourinho, a wee connection to one of his former clubs, Chelsea had a good year that year. They won the English Premier League. They pipped Man United by a single point to win the title. And also they won the FA Cup as well. A quite drab final, beating Portsmouth 1-0. Didier Drogba scored the only goal. And in the League Cup, Man United defeated Aston Villa. Michael Owen, one of the very few highlights he had in a Man United shirt, he scored one of the goals. Wayne Rooney scored the other one. James Milner scored for Aston Villa. Now, there's a good reason why I've not been in 2010 yet in the Celtic years, because Tony Mowbray, yes, in Scotland it didn't go quite well for us. Rangers ran away with the title. Tony Mowbray came in at the start of the 2009-10 season. He lasted till about, I believe, April, and then we got beat 4-0 by St Mirren and Paisley, and that was the end of that. Neil Lennon took over for the rest of the season, and it went out of 8, wasn't it? Won 8 league games out of 8. He did indeed, but crucially, he had the Scottish Cup semi-final against Ross County, which he didn't win. And Dundee United ended up winning the Scottish Cup, beating Ross County in the final, and the Scottish League Cup as well. Rangers won that. They beat St Mirren with 9 men. I believe it was Danny Wilson and maybe Kevin Thompson get sent off, and St Mirren still couldn't find a winner against them. Kenny Miller scored the goal in the counter-attack. Shame on St Mirren.
That is embarrassing.
That is 9 men. Come on, man. Come on. Now, the other winners, though, Russell, and there's a good one here that I'm expecting to hear a certain impression when we get to it. So, Inter, they won the league in Italy. Barcelona won the league in Spain. Bayern Munich won the league in Germany. Marseille in France. Benfica in Portugal. And wait, in the Netherlands, it wasn't Ajax. It wasn't PSV Eindhoven. It wasn't even Feyenoord. It was FC Twente. Now, why would FC Twente have won the league that year? I wonder. A certain English manager in charge?
Yes, there was. I think he does a better impression of being Dutch than Arthur Newman actually does speak in English, wasn't it? How he yelled, Steve McLaren, and he talks about his FC Twente shite. And see, when you're doing that, I mean, you either really are. Do you think? I don't know. Do you think maybe when you go abroad, I mean, we've all done the hotel voice, you know what I mean? Like, I am looking for my hotel. I am pissed. We've all done that, eh? Like, we have all like you know, like hotel, hotel. But to do it at a press conference like that, drunken tourist voice.
Russell, somebody that's lived abroad most of their life, right? Let me jump into this one.
Yes, please.
Go for it.
It happens in the weirdest spots. Sometimes I pick up, sometimes I'm speaking broad Canadian. If I'm in a room with a bunch of people American Canadian, I start picking up the accent.
I get it.
If I'm talking to Scottish people, especially people from East End of Glasgow, right, which is like my mother tongue, you know, that's the way my family speak. I trigger right back into that as well.
Yeah,
you know,
I get it.
When I'm in Bulgaria, I speak like I'm just learning English. Like I'm speaking like that. And they understand perfect English, but somehow I'm trying to speak as if I'm learning the language. But no, wait a minute, I'm just talking English. Anyway,
where does that come from, Liam? No, I think that's insightful. I think that's
nothing, right? Because it's just how good your body is. Like my wife's brilliant at picking up languages. She speaks about 7, but she's trained to just figure out the things. And I think that's what happens with people like Steve McLaren and that. You become part of the culture, you embrace it, and you pick things up in mannerisms, and that's how you communicate with people and that, you know.
But let's get a couple of things. Let's get a couple of things right as well. It's unfair again because he is the Wally with the Brawley and stuff. But if your biggest memory of him in Holland was doing that accent at a press conference, I mean, ask the fans if 20. Was it Eshed? I should really know that with my Dutch background. But to win the title with him. I mean, I tell you what, I bet they go, if that's what your memory is, him at a press conference, our memory is his success. That was a phenomenal achievement. And I think that, again, I think sometimes you just get certain guys that become parody of themselves for whatever reason, and maybe it's a bit unfair, because I think that achievement to go to Holland, to repair your career, he probably didn't in his wildest dreams expect to then win the Eredivisie. I mean, to win it is a joke, and I think it's a wee bit, when you actually think it, it's a wee bit harsh, is it not, Liam, for that to be the overriding memory, him doing a daft accent at a presser when what he's actually achieved.
Accent, though, man. You don't get slagged for it. Christ. It's unreal. But
that is an achievement.
He made a great achievement with him. I thought he was a good manager.
Aye.
He was good in England as well. Good player as well. He was good.
I don't remember him as a player.
Won European Cups.
I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't know him as a player. And I couldn't tell you one thing about him as a player. Do you know that? Which I'm now annoyed at. That I couldn't. I don't know anything about him as a player.
Somebody will know on the bus. He's my age, right? But I think he played with Liverpool in the 70s.
Do you know what's an interesting thing about Stephen? I'm sure after the 20 stint, he went to Germany to manage Wolfsburg, but I don't remember him doing any German accents. I think he was so scalded by what had happened with the Holland one that he just thought, But going back to what you said, Russell, about the achievement, think about it. Yeah. All the Bustalgia episodes we've done where I'll recap the big winners, it's either Ajax, PSV Eindhoven, or Feyenoord. This is the first and I think only time it's FC20. So that says it. They are not winners, And
are Feyenoord not there's maybe every now and then. I think it's really dominated by, and Feyenoord are the, one of the big three, and even they don't win it that often. I think for an Englishman to go over there, whose career's maybe, on the slide, you would have thought, I think what he did there, I think that's probably quite overlooked. I think he's a figure of ridicule where, really, how many managers, how many of the big boys could go over there and take over 20, and win and break up that monopoly within, what was it, second season?
I think it would have been maybe? Because he was manager for England going into Euro 8. Aye.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. That's the equivalent of fucking Hearts winning the league up here.
Aye. By the way, you're not a million miles off for that one. Aye, definitely, because 20 are not a team that you see as the winners there. So, it was fair play to sold Steve.
Well seen, Romanov wasn't he in charge though?
When he lasted a month and under Romanov, the way he changed managers at this point in time. But as I did when we did the World Cup and Euros ones, I wouldn't recap like the big transfers in the summer, but I would tell you who the Ballon d'Or winners are. And we've now entered the era, the monopoly of Ronaldo and Messi winning the Ballon d'Or. So in 2009, it was Messi. And in 2010, it was also Messi. So he was a holder going into the World Cup. And after the World Cup, he won it again. But again, we'll come back to it because it's a very contentious point about who won the 2010 Ballon d'Or and who was overlooked. And when you look at the numbers, you look at the year he had, and you think further down the line, there was a player of a similar position that achieved similar things that ended up winning the Ballon d'Or in 2018. And you wonder why this player was overlooked. We'll get to that later on. We'll get to it because it's an interesting talking point. Now, quickly recap of some pop culture and headlines that was going on in 2010. Obviously, we're into this era, so when it comes to music, I did in the World Cup ones, I would tell you a whole list of all the big hits during the year, but I don't know what's going on musically at this point in time. 2010, once the downloads started getting counted towards the charts, that's when I began to lose touch, man. I really have no idea. So apparently, number one, when the World Cup kicked off on the 11th of June 2010, Dizzy Rascal was number one in the UK chart, UK rapper and grime artist. Jack Johnson, with an album called To The Sea, was number one in the album chart, and number one movie. At the box office, if you fancied going to the movies on the day the World Cup kicked off, why would you? It was Sex and the City 2. So again, why would you? Go stay in and watch South Africa versus Mexico. Come on. That was a big thing that day. So Tea in the Park 2010 was headlined over the 3 nights by Muse, Eminem, and Kasabian on the main stage. Black Eyed Peas, The Prodigy, and Madness headlined the NME stage. Other big acts included Calvin Harris, Mumford & Sons, David Guetta, Jay-Z, Faithless, Stereophonics, Paolo Nutini, The Proclaimers, and Biffy Clyro. And as for Glastonbury 2010, it was headlined on the main stage by Gorillaz. Yes, that animated band that Damon Albarn did, headlining a festival. Muse and Stevie Wonder were also the headline acts on the main stage. I would like to have seen Stevie Wonder. That'd been a good one. Other big acts to appear were Snoop Dogg, Shakira, Scissor Sisters, Faithless, Willie Nelson, Slash from Guns N' Roses, Flaming Lips, The Pet Shop Boys, MGMT, and Orbital. The 2010, a topical one, because what's going on right now in the world, guys, is the 2022 Qatar World Cup, and this, of course, is the year when Sepp Blatter stood up at a ceremony in Geneva, Switzerland, with an envelope in his hand, and he announced that the host of the 2022 World Cup will be Qatar. But on the same day, he also announced the 2018 World Cup would be Vladimir Putin's Russia as well. But yeah, here we are now in this surreal odyssey where the 2022 World Cup is actually happening right now. And it's like we've had 12 years to stop it, and it's not been stopped. And here it is. It's happening now in the middle of a season. What the fuck?
The biggest announcement, though, that was really a cultural shock for the world, where you laugh at this, was in February the 8th, 2010, I opened the doors to my first pub, having just turned 22.
Nice.
That became, if you think Putin getting a World Cup's a shock, trust me at 22 and owning, I think I was the landlord told me today, goes, you're the youngest publican in the UK right now.
Oh, wow.
The youngest in the UK. Like, that was a culture shift for Bridge of Allen at the time, you know?
Did you get Sepp Blatter in to pull your name out of an envelope to say the owner of the pub is now Russell Boyce?
A few folk thought there was a lot going on. They're like, how? He must have been gifted it. I'm like, nah, I blagged it, mate. that was So 2010 is so sweet. It was the World Cup, even alone, before we even get into it, like, I was obviously... I'll just say this, the truth, right? So we're young, like, obviously, if I'm telling you I've only just turned 22, Liam, right? I am young, extremely naive to, even though I've passed my licensing exam and that, trust me, I'm not familiar with all the licensing laws per se, right? So we're trying to create a wave, and we were you see how businesses now all have like a Facebook page? I just kind of changed my name on mine to the Crooked Arm, so it was like a personal page. I was putting up flyers all the time or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, this is easier than going door to door, isn't it? Like, you're popping through. But 12 years ago, you'd be amazed. Never seen anyone else doing it back then. Or not as common anyway, at the very least. But for the World Cup, we started this campaign, which we thought was perfectly innocently named. Mm-hmm. We did get a wee bit of a row, shall we say, from the powers that be, because it was called Get Jake Bod for a Tenner campaign. During the World Cup, come to the Crook and get Jake Bod for a tenner. And it was like £2 bottles of beer, £1.50 shots or £1 shots, whatever it may have been. And so what the technicality I had to the licensing board at the time, and I hope they're not watching because I might need a license again one day. But I kind of said, well, what is the actual dictionary definition, Liam, of Jake Bod?
No.
If there ain't one, you've got nothing on me. But that is me pulling it out the bag, and they're like, no, but the connotations are there. And I'm like, how? They're the exact same shot deals or drinks deals that are getting done, period, across the country. And you're trying to pin me because we're young, isn't it? Because you don't want us to do well. I'm like, that word Jake Bod doesn't even exist. So your assumption of it could be something completely different than anyone else's. But on hindsight, that was I can't believe I never thought. Do you know what I mean?
That's how advertising creative works. It's all based on promises. What you can promise and what you can. And if things don't exist, well, you can't promise. So, or if it's super subjective like that, Jake Bod's brilliant, Because everybody's got interpretation.
Well, it is an open interpretation, but I thought I would add that in before we got going. You're talking about cultural shifts, and I'm like, that was a cultural shift.
That's a big news headline. It's very, very topical here on the bus. That's very relatable. It's better than some of the other news headlines because 2010 is quite a grim one. It's a year of natural disasters because there was an earthquake in Haiti that killed a whopping 220,000 people.
I forgot about that.
Yep, there was also an earthquake in Chile that killed 525 people and resulted in some miners being stuck underground for 69 days. 33 of them were salvaged from the wreck. Eventually, two and a bit months later, they were pulled from it and all of them survived. But that's the fallout from that one. And also, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but a volcano erupted in Iceland that caused such a massive ash cloud in the atmosphere that planes were grounded for a week going between Europe and North America because they couldn't fly over the Atlantic Ocean because of the ash cloud. But yeah, a massive volcano. So yeah, a year of natural disasters. Speaking of disasters, the Tories got into power in 2010 and we still can't fucking get rid of them because the English keep voting for them. So there you go. There's my state of politics right there. There's my take on it. That is, and it is a fucking state, by the way, because we can't get rid of these fuckers.
You need the reverend, mate.
Do it, because these fucking English keep voting for them. Honestly, why? Honestly. And anyway, the other big story from 2010 is the Pope Benedict completed the 4-city tour of the UK, visiting Glasgow, Edinburgh, London, and Birmingham. Now, guys, because it's a World Cup and also we're a Celtic show, is there any Celtic connections at this World Cup? Why, yes, there is. There's only 4, though.
There always is.
Yep. There's only 4 players going to this World Cup that were in the Celtic squad at the end of the 2010 season. So Georgios Samaras is going to the World Cup with Greece. Although I wouldn't say this is peak Samaras at this point. I think when Neil Lennon came in and took over, that's when we saw the best of Samaras. This is still Tony Mowbray Samaras.
I think Samaras is on the halfway house at this point. I think there's a chance he could go. I think for Lenny to free up funds at this point, Liam, do you know what I mean? Because obviously Lennon was getting linked to every player under the sun, if you remember. Sol Campbell's, David James's this summer, who would have cost big wages. He knew the squad needed completely rebuilt. I think Sammy might have been someone who thought I could get a couple of million quid for him and save 20, I don't know, I'm speculating, but 20 grand a week in wages. He's not been that good the last 12 months. I reckon he was in the halfway house. I think Lennon probably did a bit of soul searching with Samaras. I think he was someone that, as I say, I would describe it as the halfway house. I think Lennon would go, I like him, but I'm really going to be gambling if I decide to build the team and he's a focal point of it because he does seem that kind of hot and cold nature. Is that fair?
It's funny, Samaras was the first of that whole Man City connection, I think he was the first one we got.
Good shot.
Yeah, it's true. He
was originally on loan, and then I think the Israeli boy, Chris, I'm losing my mind.
Beaton came through the City group as well. Man City,
He had a trial for City then.
He did that.
In Australia.
Was it?
Just to add to the madness, it was his game that he played for City was in Australia, I'm positive.
Wow.
All the links. All the links.
I'm sure that Samaras is the player that Lennon, when he does his really scathing interview after the Ross County defeat, something we saw actually after the Ferencváros game in his second run, where he talked about players that shouldn't be wearing the jersey and don't want to be here. There was a lot of fans thought at that point that Samaras was one of the ones he was alluding to. I think Marc-Antoine Fortuné was another one that he was alluding to as well at that point. But I'm sure Samaras was you're right. I think he was almost at the door, but when you think about
I think it was a conundrum for Lennon because I know when Ange, for example, Liam will say, "Oh, I sing the person, not the player." I think everyone thinks he's reinvented the wheel here. I mean, I think like a lot of managers, that's been the focal point. Not taking anything away from Ange, but I think when people think this is some sort of brand new thing, I think they need to park that idea. I think very often you've got to look a guy in the eyes and go, can I deal with you on a day-to-day basis? And I think Lennon was one of those guys who also had I think maybe like his mentor, I should say, Martin O'Neill, had a liking for him. I think Lennon kind of liked that bit of devilment in players at times. I think that's what's won the day for Samaras in the end. And you're absolutely right, by the way, because Samaras, see those next 3 years in particular, I thought he was. I thought he was a shambles how good he was in Europe for us. I thought he was a real leader.
The Celtic scouts should be scouting Greece at this moment because there's something about Greek players that come into a club that get us. I thought Samaras got us. That whole stuff he did with VJ and all that.
That's right.
Anything like that. It was unbelievable. I think he was great for us, great for Greece, and I was excited to see him in this World Cup.
I did a total 180 on Samaras over the next few years because I was one of the ones that would have been happy to see the back of him at that point in time. And I agreed when Lennon had that rant about after the Ross County game, talking about those players that don't want to be here and shouldn't be playing for the club. And I was like, he's talking about guys like Samaras, get him to fuck. But in the end, when you look at what happened over the next few years and how he did turn them out, it's one of those things that Lennon doesn't get much credit for. And it is a real, that was a real,
I think it takes a skill. I think there's certain guys that really need every button that's within them, Phil, to be pushed. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a formula almost with certain guys like that who they could just seem lazy, or they could seem uninterested, or they could seem like I'm just too laid back, I don't care.
Yep.
And you've seen Samaras under Lennon at times, I would say, a man possessed. A man possessed. And I think Lennon was. I think some of his management skills with players like that, you're absolutely right, goes under the radar because it's not done in the training ground. It's up fucking there, and that can be just as tricky. As tricky.
Samaras a big game player, no doubt about it. But yeah, he is going to this World Cup with Greece. Ki Sung-young was also going to the World Cup with South Korea. And even though they were on loan to us in the 2009-2010 season, Landry and Guemo is going with Cameroon, and Edson Braafheid is going with Holland. One of those four players is going to play a very unexpected role in the World Cup final. We'll get to that soon, though. And if you've been living under a rock and don't know, you'll be surprised when you find out which one it is. Future Celtic players, though, were on display at that tournament with Emilio Ezagiri, Chadu Ree, and Efren Juarez all signed for Celtic that summer off of the end of that World Cup. And also future Celtic coach Harry Kewell played his last tournament for Australia at this World Cup as well. And also former Celtic players Shinsuke Nakamura was there, along with Chris Killen and Michael McGlinchey, who were there for New Zealand. And of course, New Zealand are one of the teams in the club where they didn't actually lose a game and still got eliminated from the World Cup. They drew all three of their games. New Zealand are in that club. But yeah, Michael McGlinchey, who only played a small part, was again. Chris Killen didn't play that much for his neither. But yeah, he's at this World Cup as well with the Kiwis. So that's the Celtic connections going to this one. As I say,
Ezagiri one's interesting there, the way. See when he joined Celtic, Liam, like that was. I thought that first year, even though we didn't win the league, it's not always about that. When you're just watching a player on their own merits.
So I thought he got to us. Mo Johnson recommended him. Toronto FC had scouted him in Honduras because they play in the CONCACAF, and Mo Johnson was at Toronto FC at the time. And what I heard as well, they were only wanting 60,000 for him to play in the MLS, and Celtic got him for 600.
Aye, wow,
mate.
We paid above the odds, but he was. Yeah, he was a great player for us. I thought he was
superb.
That first season, though, I thought he was as exciting. He was as exciting as anyone I'd seen play. Like I went, this guy is going. I thought you'd last 1 year. I was convinced 2011. By the time like that first year was done, we've not won the league. He's off. No way you can keep a hold of him. No way. It turned out
some amount of hair product going on there as well.
I don't want to talk about that.
Maybe sponsorship on the bus.
He was one of those players back then that we talked about. The profit we would turn over for him was, we thought, oh man, this is a guy we're going to get at least 10. I mean, back then, 2010, if we were getting 10 million for a player, that was like the jackpot. Nowadays, we've looked at Kieran Tierney going for 25 million. We're talking about some of our players would look for more than that nowadays because just the way football's went. But I remember after that first season, many people were like, man, seeing we sell this guy as a Ezagiri, we're going to turn a hell of a profit on him. But in the end, maybe did he stay too long? Obviously, the injury affected him as well. But
the injury killed him, Phil.
Yeah, and then Tierney came along as well, and Tierney was just a generational talent.
A player, so the whole mindset becomes so much more. Everything he's doing is thought out, and that's not how he played before. He played with bravery. He played free. He was a complete free spirit when he first played. And the overlap and runs were so. Like, it seemed crazy bold how he was doing it, but now, or not now, but when he came back, that is particularly like when Rodgers re-signed him. I mean, this was a player who was playing very within his abilities. He was thinking about everything, and that comes if you get a bad injury, by the way. That can happen.
It does. But he was that game against Rangers, the 3-0 one in February 2011, where he's just
unplayable.
Unbelievable, man, the way he was getting forward. The one he puts across at Gary Hooper, slides in at the back post, puts it in the net. Jesus Christ, man. What a performance that was.
Do you think they'd seen him at that World Cup? It's just the Maurice Johnson tip-off. That was enough.
Probably played against Canada because a lot of the coaching was played in the Canadian national team as well. So he's probably watching them there.
It's interesting. I didn't realise he was at that World Cup, to be honest.
They were in Spain's group with Switzerland, Spain, and Chile, but Honduras. But I was looking at the squads. I was trying to find players that would sign for Celtic, and Chaduri, Emilio Ezagiri, and Efrain Juarez, 3 men with very differing fortunes at Celtic.
I think Juarez was another one that I know you were talking about him. No, it was Endless Celts that were talking about him.
That's right,
Endless Celts. Last week they were doing the Nope Sullivan, and I think they put Juarez at right back, but I can't remember which one of them it was. Was it William? And he said he'd watched the first time Juarez played. I think this was against Utrecht. I could be wrong. Or Braga. Braga. And he was fucking unreal for us. And I went, he's the best at all the signings. He's the best at all the signings. And if he likes a party, he likes a party. But I still think, again, you talk about this Maverick stuff and you go, well, Lennon can overcome that with people sometimes. He must have been way out of line. You know what I mean? Like, for Lennon to that quickly, especially when you've got a boat to answer to and you've spent £3.5 million.
Yep.
You know, that takes bollocks to go, I'm just going to need to drop him. So he must have been...
It seemed like a one-off because he's one of these guys, he went into coaching immediately after he retired. I think he was Ronnie's number.
Assistant manager to Ronnie Dyler right now at Standard Liège. Yeah.
You know? But he looked at the guy, but all the ability, the socks a wee bit lower, which I always like as well. But yeah, I found it really, really strange how you can always salvage something. I mean, it wasn't like he was old. He was about 23 when he joined us. Sorry, but he must have been a bad boy though. He must have been a bad boy, whatever he did, because he fell off the cliff. Do you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't getting just that wee row off Lennon and going, want to get you back in. It was adios, mate, very quickly.
Have you heard what happened about it? It was supposed people involved.
Him and Carlos Vela apparently were the 2 ringleaders behind it. They were but I think it was pinned more on Juarez that he was the main instigator of all those shenanigans, apparently. So, but yeah, he obviously just disappeared after that international break in about October. So I can remember he played against Rangers in the derby in October that year. That was about 11 games into the season, but then the sort of like, you know, you've got an October-November international break after that one. And that was it. I don't think if he played for us for the rest of the season, it was a fleeting appearance here and there, but dropped off a cliff. Now, we'll do a wee pre-tournament roundup, and this, unlike our pre-season roundups we do on the Celtic, the pre-tournament roundup is basically us saying, why did Scotland not qualify? What did we do wrong this time not to qualify? Of course, at Euro 2008, Scotland were actually quite unlucky not to qualify. That was the closest we'd got at that point. But before we get to there, obviously one of the things I'd thrown in on the Bustalgia tournament editions we did was the Nike adverts every year were always a real epic occasion. Talk about the John Lewis adverts at Christmas, people wait eagerly to see what that is, but every time a tournament would come along, Nike would have an amazing advertising campaign. So this one was their Write the Future ads, which mostly focused around Wayne Rooney and Frank Ribery, but the stars that were in it were Didier Drogba, Cannavaro, Wayne Rooney, Theo Walcott, Frank Ribery, Cesc Fabregas, Iniesta, Gerard Piqué, Kaká, Ronaldinho, Cristiano Ronaldo, Roger Federer, Kobe Bryant, and even Homer Simpson made an appearance in the advert as well. But yeah, the whole base. No Cantona on that one. Usually he's always got a cameo in the background, but no Cantona this time. But yeah, the main one for people that don't remember it is it mostly focuses around Rooney. He's playing a game. It's England against France. He goes to play a ball to Theo Walcott, and Frank Ribery intercepts it and is running through on goal. And Rooney gets a moment where he sees his future flashing in front of him, and he's like living in a caravan, like wearing a wife beater vest, and he's got the big beard, and he's just like, no, I can't allow that to happen. So he chases Ribery down and wins the ball back, and it changes his whole future and stuff like that. And he ends up going on to become the superstar he is. But that's the whole idea behind it, the Write the Future campaign. But of course, Cristiano Ronaldo has to get the last word in at the very end of the ad. Strangely, it's a moment where I think art imitate life, because he was attending the Cristiano Ronaldo movie premiere, and I'm pretty sure about 2014 there was a Cristiano Ronaldo movie, not necessarily one where somebody was playing him, but an actual documentary movie, because for the 2014 Champions League final, when Atletico and Real Madrid were in the final and Real beat them 4-1, Real got a penalty in the very last minute of extra time to go 4-1 up, and Ronaldo made sure he took that penalty to get the footage for his documentary film and like the celebrations and that. And it's like, mate, you're winning 4-1 in the 120th minute of extra time.
Oh,
it's like, come on.
No, I think these are so overly harsh on him. Like, just
I do like Ronaldo. I do. I get
why
it.
would you not be celebrating like mad for a Champions League final goal? Like, why would you? This is the pinnacle of club football. Just because you're used to him being in these finals, it's suddenly, oh, mate, you were 4-1 up. Come on. I think he's absolutely right to celebrate the way he wants. Very interesting as well. This would have been his second of the 5 World Cups he's now just scored at.
That's right. He was 06. 2006 was his first one, so 2010 the second one.
That's not bad going. That's not bad going.
Hey, Russell, I've been listening to some of the World Cup with American commentary, and they've got, I don't know if it's Megan Rapinoe or whoever it is, but she was very quick to point out that he's the 3rd player to score in 5 World Cups. He's the first male player.
Oh, that's fair.
In World Cups.
Yeah, you need to watch that. You need to watch that.
Company with Christine Sinclair of Canada and I think Mia Hamm of the States.
Well, we stand corrected. He was the first male. It's quite an achievement for someone who, I don't know. I think history will be kind to him as well.
Oh yeah, as a player, he's unbelievable. But I did find it interesting that at the end of the advert, he's attending a movie premiere for himself, and I was like, that actually happened. That was like the future. The advert's called "Write the Future," and I was like, that happened. That really did. He did have his own movie a few years later. So
is he one of those guys though? See, when you look now and you go, at times he has wrote his own scripts in football. You get this every now and then.
Yep.
And you look. I think Maradona, obviously, the unique examples he's got, dragging a team to a World Cup, and then Napoli, unfancy Napoli. There's no way they win that league. They didn't come close to it without him. And it's like he's just writing his own scripts. I think he had that in mind when he went back to United. Do you know that? I know this is way later, but I think he thought, I'm still even at. And maybe it's a wee bit of delusion. Maybe there is a wee bit of that. But when you've achieved what he has, you can't blame him for that either. I think he might have thought when he went back there last summer, do you know what? How good would that script be?
Yeah.
Man United win their first league since Fergie left, and it's all because of me. I wouldn't. And by the way, he contributed his bit last season for them. People forget that. 24 goals, 18 in the league, and 6 in the Champions League. They don't have guys doing that. They don't have guys. If that's him a fading force, then that tells you what of a fucking freak of a force of nature he was.
If Phil, let me talk about that ad for a second, that Nike
Sure.
ad.
Yes.
So, when you're learning how to direct and creativity and advertising, that's one of the films that you watch. It's as closest to being a perfect spot as you can possibly have. I think the original's 3 minutes.
Okay.
Is it?
When you break it down. But what it did is it taken that star power of football players and it made it international. Like all of a sudden, Didier, Drogba, Ronaldo, all these players are larger than life. They, Beckham had done it. That was the anomaly. But now you have all this generation of guys coming in that are fucking like class studs that were out there. And Armani and Gucci and Dior. They were all over the place. And I think what you saw was a superstardom emerging. And I think that was what happened at this World Cup as well. It's where there was stars on every team.
Yeah.
All nations, all colours, all races. It was really interesting. And they were all amplified and they all had the big marketing machines behind them. And that's
is that when the football world, Liam, was? It's kind of got smaller now. I was speaking about this with my mum's man earlier. We were talking about like the Brazil team. You said, "Oh, did you see Brazil?" Because the World Cup starts when Brazil play and all that stuff. And I went, "Do you know the thing is though? I'm like, it's a Spurs striker who's creating the waves." See, when I was growing up, I didn't get to see these guys ever. They all belong, like they all played. I don't mean belong to the bad. I just mean they all, did their trade in different countries that you never got access to watching that football often. And it was like that element of surprise that I think maybe captured the magic. Whereas now it's like, he plays for fucking Brentford, though. Do you know what I mean? He plays that English. But I think you're right with the 2010 World Cup. I know the point you're making. Suddenly they're all. You know them all now. The era of the superstar has firmly arrived.
Well, there's a mystery to them as well, too. I remember watching watching it with my ma like years ago in the early 80s and all that. And, you know, they'd going across all these Soviet bloc looking guys and it didn't matter who they were. Oh, they were bastards during the war. They once, you know.
It's so true though.
Like racism, you know.
94. Well, that's what happens. That's how it's ingrained in. It's ingrained in certain generations. There's no getting away from it. I think
you knew very little about them, you know. So it was like, there was this mystery. So, you know, are they going to be like, you know, and
revert to the stereotype. That'll define them. You know what I mean? But I do think like the '94 World Cup. Maybe 98 to an extent. I still think Croatia maybe had a team of guys that you were like, who the fuck is that? Never heard of him.
Yeah.
Never heard of him. Oh, wow, he's a baller. But by 2010, what Liam's talking about there is so valid because I think by 2010, anyone that was going to be good at the World Cup, as we now see in the modern day, you kind of knew who they were already. You'd seen them. And that's I think that's changed it. And it's maybe lost its romance a wee bit for me too.
Well, first, back up what Liam said about this advert, when I said when all the stars were in it. Roger Federer makes an appearance in it, a tennis player, the best tennis player in the world at that point. He's playing table tennis with Wayne Rooney. Remember I said Wayne Rooney sees his future. Then Kobe Bryant, he does the wee Ronaldinho dance because it transitions with Ronaldinho doing his step over skills to Kobe Bryant scoring a 3-pointer. Then he does a wee similar dance to Ronaldinho. And I say Homer Simpson's in it. They even put Ronaldo in The Simpsons because Homer Simpson's favourite catchphrase is "Dolt." So he opens the door and it's Ronaldo standing there. It's like Ronaldo, and he puts the ball through his legs. So Homer Simpson. So Cristiano Ronaldo and The Simpsons. So even that, it's like a pop culture crossover there. It's like a soccer player and The Simpsons. Like that's huge. Even though The Simpsons have been terrible for years, but that's a big moment. So it's like things like that. So it proves what Liam's saying there. This is a point when football is getting more recognised now on the global stage, especially from that side of the Atlantic, where they've always kind of turned their nose up at our sport. They always turned it up.
That's made me think, definitely, Liam. That is, you're right. It's when it's all came together and it's like they're all superstars now. Like you know about all of them now. Do you know what I mean?
Interestingly enough, this is a social media day and age starting because Twitter launches in like 2008. Facebook's around about the same time. So we're going into the social media day and age and stuff like that. So this is also contributing to it. The first major tournament after that, all those websites popping up. So that's probably helped with it. Now, of course, the official song for the World Cup was Waka Waka, This Time for Africa by Shakira. Interesting fact about that, she met Gerard Piqué on the video shoot. Of course, they got married, and later this year, they got divorced because he was cheating on her. Yes, he was cheating on Shakira. Wow.
What, the guy who's holier than now? And he is holier than now, that Gerard Piqué. I can't remember him.
That's where they met on the video shoot for Shakira's song for this World Cup. And they got divorced this year as well after it's found that he was cheating on her. So what was he thinking?
I went to Egypt in 2012 on holiday, and I had to decide which was more irritating, my missus at the time or that song being boomed out around the pool every morning on repeat.
Yep.
Honestly, I can hear that song in my nightmares right now. So the song must have done well.
Aye, it must have. Now, I said at the start of the pre-tournament roundup, this, of course, is about when we look at why did Scotland not qualify? Well, this is George Burley's Scotland. You might remember he was the manager after Alex McLeish left, and before Craig Levein, George Burley had to stint as manager. So we were in a group with Holland and Norway. Holland romped the group, 24 points they finished on. We finished joint second with Norway on 10 points, but we didn't get a playoff spot because there were 9 groups. There were 8 playoff spots, and the 8 best second-place teams would have gone into the playoffs. Had we finished on 13 points, had we won our last game, we would have gone into the playoffs. But no, we finished on 10 because our last game was against Holland at Hampden. They beat us 1-0, and it was a disastrous campaign. However, afterwards, George Burley did get the seal of approval, the vote of confidence from the SFA, until November of that year when he lost, wait for it, a friendly to Wales 3-0. And then he got the sack after a friendly, guys. So there you go.
And do you remember that friendly? I can tell you a wee bit about it.
I remember us losing to Wales quite a lot about that time, but I don't
know if it's of guys that really stood out were called Aaron Ramsey and Joe Ledley.
Joe Ledley is that?
The two of them ran that game, mate. They were a joke how good. And I went, they've got levels that we just didn't have. We've got no youngsters coming through that have that ability. Ramsey in particular, to be fair, because Joe Ledley wasn't a standout. So, Joe Ledley was quality, But he wasn't. But Aaron Ramsey took the piss.
Of course, as Patrick McGraw was saying, this is also the campaign with the Chris Iwelumo miss on the line. It's that one at Norway against Norway. Gary Naismith puts the ball across, and somehow he misses right in front of goal.
Off his heel, and that when the campaign for Chris Boyd to start was going on.
I think so. Yeah, did he? Yeah.
Everyone knows you can't. Like Walter Smith doesn't start you in any game other than against the bottom half of the SPFL. He doesn't start against Celtic, and he does not start you in Europe. Why the hell would you now be a bona fide international striker?
Yeah, it's that campaign. So I'm trying to raise that one from my memory, Patrick. But yeah, it's that one. Right. But no, when you're talking about the Wales defeat, I'm always thinking because at that time we played Wales a few times. I remember a game when Gareth Bale just picked the ball up and just ran at us, and Charlie Adam kept backing off him, and then he just pinged one right in the top corner. So I couldn't remember if it was that one. But no, this is a different game. 3-0. To say George Burley loses his job after a friendly defeat, after getting the vote of confidence for the SFA. So there you go. And also, before we obviously go into we'll have the mid-show break, and then we'll go into the tournament. But yeah, the host cities for this World Cup, I'll try to pronounce all of these correctly. They're all pretty clear, I think. Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, Pretoria, Port Elizabeth, Rustenburg, Polokwane in the Spirit, and Bloemfontein, who I believe have got a Bloemfontein Celtic playing in that city, don't they, Liam?
Aye, yeah, I've got one of their shirts. A friend of mine got them for me.
Wow.
Nice.
My stepdad was African for that part, so... Aye, he they've only been around since the 60s. I don't think they're around anymore now. As well.
Oh, okay. Because there's an Ajax Cape Town as well, due to Dutch communities within South Africa. But yeah, there's an Ajax Cape Town as well. They've got the exact same badge as Ajax Amsterdam, but it says Cape Town on it.
Well, Bloemfontein, I Google some of their games, and you see it's like I don't know if it's Soweto, but it's African. You want to talk about lateral movement or a jump like that, and it looks absolutely brilliant. And they're all wearing the hoops.
That's good. See, just on the Ajax Cape Town thing, is that I take it? Do Ajax have? They must, if it's their logo, they must have some sort of.
They must do. It'll be some kind of like academy as well, where they'll get like a feeder club.
Again, this is all avenues that our club could be looking at.
Bloemfontein Celtic, it's right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know, but I think definitely when you think of that Ajax Cape Town, because I always wondered that playing Championship manager, I was like, it's funny they've got the same fucking name. So if you think, again, I always talk about the sliding doors moment. We beat Ajax 3-1. Where did the two clubs' tail lead up to in 2022? And one's went one way, one's went the other, and it wasn't the team that won. And I wonder if you look at link ups at that, and could you have been stronger in those sort of fields? I think we could have. If Scotland, because the one thing you always knew was Scottish football wasn't going to be the answer in terms of revenue. So looking overseas should have been something that would stare them in the face, particularly as again when you see peers, which I would have called Ajax in 2001 a peer of Celtic, right? You look at what your peers are up to, and if they're signing deals with Cape Town in South Africa, there's got to be a benefit to them to that.
It has to,
And I certainly would love to see us exploring that. And as Monty says, yes, maybe in Croatia one day, Monty. You're absolutely right.
Yes, indeed.
You know what Ajax does well? They embrace fan culture as well, better than a lot of clubs. That Bob Marley shirt that they brought out, Adidas, that was absolutely brilliant. Celtic's got relationships with bands and movie stars and all that.
So true.
We don't try and push all that. We give them an ambassadorship and a free seat when they can afford it.
You're so right, though. You're so right, because that's
some of that, because they all name drop Celtic and to be cool, and a lot of them are real genuine fans as well, and convert other actors and stuff.
Bob Marley didn't mention Celtic in his top 3 clubs. He didn't mention Ajax, sorry. He mentioned Celtic.
Aye.
How come they've got a 3 Little Birds t-shirt and a tie-up with Ajax? Again, that could have been us.
Did you sing the song?
Could have been.
No.
Aye. It could have been, but these are ventures that hopefully Celtic will look into one day. Because
we're taking you off piece there, Phil. Apologies.
That's all right. But no, we've reached the halfway point of the show now. Obviously, there's a few gremlins in the system, so hopefully the music when it's playing doesn't jump all over the place for me. But we will be back in roughly 2 minutes for the second part of the show, where we'll dive into the 2010 World Cup. So I'll run the music just now, and we'll see you in a couple of moments.
comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
There we go. Even though it was jumping all over the place for me, so I'll just cut it there because I had no idea when it would have been back. So yeah, we'll need find out from StreamYard what's going on with that one. But anyway, we're back now, folks. So yeah, let's get into the 2010 World Cup, so the Vuvuzela World Cup, that droning noise constantly going back and watching the highlights. Jesus, man. Post-traumatic stress disorder, listen to that. Now, normally when we do these tournament ones, we were doing back in the summer, a great talking point was obviously our good pals England, because they would qualify for tournaments. Obviously we don't, but they always provide an interesting storyline, an interesting headline. And speaking of headlines, that is obviously the inspiration for this is the tagline for this segment, EASY, easy, the acronym. Why was that the case? Well, if you don't know, back in 2009, this wouldn't be like England at all, would it? The draw came out. The group was England, Algeria, Slovenia, and the United States of America, to which the Sun newspaper produced this. England, Algeria, Slovenia, Yanks. The best English group since the Beatles. Yeah, not like them at all to be that arrogant, is it? But yeah, that is the headline. And of course, as they would find out very, very soon going into this tournament, it was anything but easy. So once again, that arrogance got the better of them. Even tonight, they were playing the United States of America in the Qatar World Cup. They couldn't beat them there as well. So they've not got a great record against them. But yeah, they would kick off against the USA in Rustenburg in their first game. But Russell, something big has changed since the last time they were in a tournament. It's not Sven-Goran Eriksson, Todd Grip leading the way in the dugout. It's not Steve McLaren, the Wally with the Brawley. It's Fabio Capello, who, again, if you're exposed to Italian football in the 90s through Channel 4 and stuff like that, that's a big, big deal, because he was like AC Milan's like Champions League winning manager, won multiple titles in Italy. It was a big deal for them to get him.
He did Real Madrid as well. He did Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think he was in the Real Madrid revolving door.
David Beckham, remember, and again, he hadn't rated Beckham initially when he first took over, and then again, what a brilliant manager can always do is accept when they get something wrong. He brought Beckham back in he had him in the reserves. He brought Beckham back into the team, even though Beckham had signed with LA Galaxy. And at the end of that season, Beckham started every game, and his contribution was a joke, and they went and won the league. So Capello was top, right? Top manager. And I believe this World Cup, he tried to ban the Wags.
I think he did after what Sven did at 06. Aye.
And I think, again, it was seen as backwards. It was seen as, and it's like, he's just a fucking born winner. And he can see the distractions that go on, and, you know, he's trying to solve them. But again, I think someone like Capello, you need to endear yourself to the English media. See, right now, they don't know what to do with Southgate because he's so unoffensive.
Yeah.
He's so, like, they've got no, and he got to a final and he got to a semi, right? I don't know if he's ever had more than a semi, to be fair, judging by his mentality, but what can I say? I mean, I think I think someone like, Capello was fun. He was strong. He had a mental streak to him. I don't care what you say. I'll be doing it my way. I'm not going to be playing players just because, I need to play them because you tell me so. I don't give a fuck. And I think at the end of the day, they couldn't wait to hang him out to dry unless he won the World Cup. I think that's what he was. His biggest problem was always going to be if I don't win, I'm like they're going to be wanting me out. That was the perilous task he had, because just by being real and by sticking to your own guns and not playing ball with the English media, who think they should get, they think their balls should be the ones getting tickled. I just think that led him to a position where it was win the whole thing, or they'll be baiting for your blood. Sad that, because he was more than capable.
Oh yeah, he was. Now, Liam, obviously you've been on the other side of the Atlantic. You'll be more exposed to like American coverage of like football tournaments. They'll obviously wheel in like English pundits here and there, I'd imagine, would do work for like Fox Sports and stuff like that. What are they like out there in terms of like when they're on doing the punditry? Are they as arrogant when they're working for another channel as they are what we see on this side of the Atlantic? Like, they've already got them down as winners for the commentators and the pundits that go on. Or see when they're like doing stints on like American TV, are they quite? Do they reel it in a wee bit?
I think they do a wee bit, Well, no, actually, no. Wait a minute, I'll go by the Canadian television. Absolutely not. In fact, it's just as bad.
Yeah.
Do you know who we've got as a commentator for the Canadian games? Stephen Caldwell. Remember Stephen Caldwell played by Hearts?
Yeah.
Gary Caldwell's brother.
Aye.
Right, him.
Aye.
His voice sounds like a dishwasher.
Aye.
And he's got nothing to say. He looks like one of the thickest planks on the planet.
Did he manage in America, Liam? Did he manage in America? Am I right in thinking he managed in America?
No, he played for Toronto. He went over and he played for Toronto FC. I don't think he managed. I mean, he could fucking barely manage as a player.
Oh, you're probably right.
I remember on his hands and his knees with a number 7 flying past him, Well, also, I remember he was looking for his shin pads and his boots and everything after Arsenal went past him, I thought he was always rubbish. And he's the voice, and he's just like the most boring man on the planet.
Mundane. I find him and Gary Caldwell, to be honest, not personally against him, but I do find them both quite a tough listen. Like, where's that personality? Like, fucking hell. Yeah. Like, I think if you're a pundit on TV, you can sound the klaxon, Phil, if you want. I've got 2 Walker squares in my hand.
Yeah, of course.
I always think when it came back to well, you remember Martin when he was getting the Celtic job, though, he was like a celebrity when he was the pundit on BBC. He was the big time. He was the big time guy. Like Gary Lineker, you could see he'd be like got Martin in the room just because he was box office. Because what he was doing was he's talking you through a football match. Yes, he's doing that. But he's taking you up wee avenues. He's taking you up wee stories. He's making it interesting. I just wonder if, do you think, when you talk about a Calder, for example, being like that, though, is that maybe just now you're seeing that's what footballers are now like? They plays any personality anymore either, Liam. They're just there doing their job. Like they're so overly coached now. Right. There is no personalities left. So it's no surprise now once they go on TV, all their personality's been fucking drained out them and all. Do you know what I mean? Not that I'm saying Mr. Caldwell had loads of charisma and abundance anyway, like.
But yeah, I don't know if you've seen any of this, Liam, but basically over here it started already. They put 6 past Iran the other day, and they've been waxing lyrical about how great it is. And don't get me wrong, after Argentina and Germany lost, I think I've seen the Argentina highlights against Saudi Arabia more than I've seen the England highlights, because they are milking it for all it's worth, because they don't like Argentina. They don't like Germany. If Spain or something had lost to Saudi Arabia, ITV and BBC would be showing the highlights as much. I found it interesting, though, the other night when Spain played Costa Rica and put 7 past them. There was so many wee caveats that were thrown in there in the commentary and in the punditry by like Souness and Neville and Clive Tilsley on commentary. Oh, you can't really learn much about this Spain side against opposition like Costa Rica. What about Iran? You know, what about a team like that? France beat Australia the other day 4-1, and again, it's like, it's only Australia. We can't really learn much about this France team, and it's like, come on, guys, you know, you can't keep on putting these wee caveats in there. It's like you can only beat what's put in front of you, and they'll say that about England and Iran. Oh, we can only beat what's put in front of us, and it's like, yeah, well, you know, it's the same principle for what's going on with Spain beating Costa Rica. Did you see the Gary Neville one as well when he was asked before the Spain game? What do you think of this Spanish team? He went, I mean, it's okay, but there's no goals in it, and they won 7-0. So there you go. Shows that, you know, there was a good meme doing the rounds. It was that Curb Your Enthusiasm meme where like he makes that comment and it cuts to the score and the Curb Your Enthusiasm music's playing, and it's just like perfect, absolutely perfect again. But yeah, there's no goals in it.
We were well warned by Mr. Postecoglou that Iran has a crop of players that we should all be aware of, and just because you're not aware of them doesn't mean they ain't any good. Maybe they'll go prove that.
No,
they've scored 4 goals in 2 games at the World Cup so far, by the way.
And they were good value for beating Wales today. Very good value for it. Very good.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting.
See, if you give Ukraine a pass for form and all that stuff as well. Look at the people in Iran are going through right now. So there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of external stuff. I know their player of the year or most famous.
Suit the agenda
yesterday.
Suit the agenda, mate. Suit the fucking agenda. Come on, you need to suit the agenda. We need to play at the gallery because we're in the UK right now. So you know, play at the gallery, Liam. Come on, you'll get us thrown off here. No, I agree with you big time, mate, on that. I totally agree with you. I think it's good that you've even highlighted it. That's what the bus tries to do, to separate itself from all the mainstream shite. You're absolutely right. You look at what the Iranians are going through right now, and you look at them, their own fans protesting their own government at football matches in Qatar, and you know, being you know, almost patronisingly sort of congratulated on their bravery and all that. So, is anyone going to dip their toes into the actual reasons behind this, or is it only Ukraine? What's going on in Ukraine that's a real situation? I mean, heaven forbid Palestine ever end up at a World Cup, you know. And you want to really talk about atrocities, you know? It's fucking. I'm glad you said that, mate.
Right. But yeah, English media again. It was no different in the 2010 World Cup again. You know, the minute Steven Gerrard scored their opening goal in Rustenburg against the USA, 4 minutes into the game, Clive Tilsley proclaimed Rustenburg. Yeah, no, this is Rustenburg, and Clive Tilsley on ITV commentary proclaimed it was liftoff for England. Because that was it. There was only one way they were going, and the only way was up. Sadly, it wasn't, because this game and this World Cup is England's World Cup in particular. This is one of the things it's remembered for. Midway through the first half, USA get a chance. Clint Dempsey kind of bamboozles himself, I would describe it as. He turns one way, turns the other, gets a wee bit of space, has a shot that's a bit of a daisy cutter. There's nothing really in it at all. But Rob Green, you know, kneels down to pick it up and completely fumbles it into the net. And remember earlier on I showed you the headline with what the Sun did about the easy? Well, this is what the New York Post retorted with after that game. Did the USA win 0-0 tonight? There you go. USA wins 1-1, but yeah, that's how it ended. Clint Dempsey.
And did Rob Green not get dropped after that?
David James plays the rest of the game.
Celtic bound David James.
Celtic bound David James played the rest of the World Cup. Yeah, he was, but Calamity James was brought back in for the.
But again, that is a Capello trait. Remember, we were just talking about Capello a minute ago. Very rare you see a manager after one game have the courage of their convictions to go, actually, I was wrong, and I'm not afraid to drop the first choice goalkeeper that quick. Like, you don't see managers doing that, and I don't think he's doing that because he doesn't know what to do. I think he's seen a glaring error like that and went, if he's done it now, that'll carry on happening. And he said, I respected the fact he made that. That was a brave call.
There was no, I mean, the confidence of Rob Green must have been on the floor after that. And then to get dropped, boy, wouldn't have done him many favours either. Because sometimes when a goalkeeper does make that, if you stick by him, you know, that'll pick him back up a wee bit. But now he was just like, no, you're out, David James back in. Because I suppose in the World Cup, there's little room for error. You've only got 3 games.
How old is David James?
You'll know because you're the dates man. So go on, enlighten us. I'm going to say 39.
Yeah, he was 40 that year, so it was either 40 at the World Cup or 39 then, which is that is mad. I mean, like, you talk about longevity of certain folks' careers, right? We look at Lubo, for example, and we've looked at him in depth on the bus on various different Bustalgia episodes, and you know, you felt he could go for another year or two. How the fuck did David James end up at the top end of football till he was 40? He was pushed when he was 27.
Aye.
He was called Calamity James.
Aye.
He was a nightmare. Like how could you be that bang average and somehow get a move right across all the Premier League clubs? It would always be sideways steps as well. It was never like a big demotion. West Ham to Man City, who were on the up, stuff like that. And you're going, he's hopeless. He's gets to a World Cup and recalled at freaking either 40 or approaching 40. I don't know, man.
Mate,
fair enough.
You just got a memory back in my head. Do you guys remember when he get put up front by Stuart Pearce in the last minute of a Premier League game?
No.
Do you not remember that? Liam. So Man City have chose, like under Stuart Pearce, to put David James on up front.
Up front.
I'm like, he's got photos of like, all his managers are saying this. There's no way.
Him and Andy Carroll must have been at the same party. He was another one. Everybody right.
Just when you mentioned Man City there, I came back into my head of they were playing Middlesbrough on the last day of the season. They had to win. And he put on David James as a striker, didn't put him on in goal and tell him to go up front and leave the goal empty. He subbed off a striker and had an outfield shot for David James to play up front. I just came back to me there. I was like, oh my God, I fucking forgot about that.
But that means there's an outfield player not getting chosen. A goalkeeper's been chosen. I mean, how are you winging that?
Oh,
but I just felt he was someone that, when I was growing up, he was synonymous with like calamity errors. I know he's called Calamity James. That's a funny wee tag. But he genuinely was like howlers. You associated him with consistently through his career. And he was Liverpool was my first memories. Then he was Villa. Then West Ham. Then Man City. And you're going, and then Portsmouth when he won the FA Cup. You're going, this is a pretty strong Premier League career to have had for someone so bad.
Yep. And
by the time he's turning 40, I'll be in goals for England at that World Cup. Don't you worry. I think that is
wild.
Phenomenal.
That is absolutely wild when thinking about it. But yeah, I just remember that. Up front, that's incredible. Imagine being an outfield player getting subbed off for a goalkeeper to play up front. Imagine honestly, that would just wreck your confidence completely. But yeah, he is back, as Russell says. He will now play the rest of the World Cup. But spoiler, England's World Cup isn't going to last too long because their next game in this easy group, the EASY group, they play Algeria, have an absolutely dire 0-0 draw. They get booed off the park by their own fans. The game's remembered for Wayne Rooney finding a cameraman as he walks off the park and says, "Nice of our own fans to boo you," eh? And he says it down the camera barrel. But yeah, they were 2 points after 2 games. Final game, they sneak past Slovenia with a 1-0 victory. Jermaine Defoe scores the only goal. Unfortunately for them, though, Landon Donovan scored a 91st minute winner for the USA, which meant that they won the group on goals scored. And England in this easy group did not actually win it. They finished second and limped into the next round. And because of that, they were paired up with Group C, I believe, and that was Germany's group. Germany won their group, so it was the old enemy for them. Yeah, they would meet in the round of 16. And of course, it was a very, very infamous one in Bloemfontein. This one was played. So Germany race into a 2-goal lead through Miroslav Klose and Lucas Podolski after half an hour. Matthew Upson pulls one back for England at a header from a corner, I believe, from Gerrard. But then when the momentum suddenly shifts in the game, just before half-time, Frank Lampard has a pop from outside the area. The ball hits the underside of the crossbar. It bounces down over the line. Everyone can see it in the stadium. Every player on the park knows it's in. Watching it in real time, you could see it's in. But there was 2 people that didn't think it was in, which was the referee and the linesman on that side, because they deemed it not over the line. And it completely rattled England. Manuel Neuer gets up and quickly scoops it back out the net. And the referee waves it off. No goal. Linesman doesn't flag for it or anything. England are absolutely incensed. And yeah, they go in at half-time, absolutely beating 2-1 down. But, of course, from that...
What goes around comes around, don't it?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, it was a bit of karma, I guess, when you go back to 1966. Yeah.
Karma is a bitch.
But is this the incident that kind of triggered VAR getting put into motion? Because over the next few years, more shouts for, like, goal line technology and what's now evolved into video assistant refereeing. But this, to me, feels like the first real watershed moment in the argument to bring in technology, I think this is the moment here.
Well, I've got a couple of points on that, because see, by 2010, I'm sure there won't be many cricket fans in the group watching right now, and I'm sure probably you two aren't either. But Hawkeye is now 12 years prominent in cricket by this point. In tennis, it's probably now about a decade prominent. And guess what? All these calls are to make. Was the ball in line? Was it going to be like in cricket? It was actually predicting whether it would hit the stumps or not. In tennis, it was literally telling you if it hit the baseline or not. How is football, with all that money that those other two sports could only dream of, how by 2010 was Hawkeye not in place to tell you whether that ball had crossed the line or not?
Aye, that's true. It's just so far behind, and again, you've got these
so far behind, mate.
So far behind.
It's not. I know VAR. I suppose you could say that would take place because they need to let them know, but that shouldn't have been something that was like, oh, could we do this or not? Hawkeye is not one that's subjective, which is going to be our favourite word in the SPL this season, right? It's going to be subject. You know, the Hawkeye stuff is unbelievably black and white. It is fact or fiction. And that Frank Lampard one, how in 2010, with all the money that's getting pumped into these World Cups, they couldn't have just showed you the trajectory of the ball on a replay and just went, look, that's where it landed. Full ball over the line by a mile. And, you know, fuck it. I mean, I wasn't particularly.
But you're right, the technology was already there. You saw it in every television camera. And so that's just, all you have to do is invent a microphone and, I can talk to you. That's already invented. There's no reason to not have that. If it's something that's game-changing like that, there's a wee thing that says, you got to check upstairs, that ball was definitely over the line. So that was
all there. That has to have all been all there, because as I say, and you know, I know that these are sports that obviously in their own way have millions put in them. I get all that, but you cannot tell me football doesn't have 10 times the funding and involved with sponsorships and stuff that a tennis or a cricket would. You watch them at any sort of level, and the Hawkeye system, for example, as a starter, was being used there for over a decade in both by this point. So I find that fascinating.
This is a point in time when the fourth official has long since been a thing in football. What's stopping him from having a TV next to him on the side? Like, you didn't even need any fancy graphics for that goal. Just a normal television replay. And as Bob McBob says, missing a trick, not miking up the refs. All it takes is the fourth official to just have a quick glance at the screen, wouldn't waste too much time, and just say to the referee, that crossed the line through a microphone. Because you don't need any fancy Hawkeye graphics to see that Lampard shot clearly crossed the line, and England were, what goes around comes around, I suppose. And were we really bothered about it? No, really. But yeah, it does cross the line by a significant.
For the two countries as well, Phil, isn't it?
But Germany and England, I know.
Like that is weird how.
Do you remember the one at Old Trafford when it was Pedro Mendes scored and Roy Carroll scooped it out the net? It was like 3 yards behind the line as well. That was a few years before that and on. It was like, how did you miss that going in? I think it was Tottenham were playing Man United that night, but crazy, man, how you can see it in real time. I say even watching on the telly, so I don't even need a replay to know that was in. It clearly went in the net, but in the end, it didn't happen. England throughout the second half, still obviously raging about it. Thomas Müller scored another 2, and Germany beat them 4-1 in the end. England's indeed coming home. Will there be a World Cup
where Thomas Müller doesn't score?
Oh, well, yeah, he's at this World Cup, so,
he just scores at every World Cup. Thomas Müller, I'm like, I don't know, what is he now, 33, 34? And he always seems to have been in that team.
Did you see that there was a meme the day going about him, and it was like, back then, what he looked like back then, he looks the exact same age now. What he did back then. Like, he was 30-year-old when he was 20.
That's Javier Zanetti syndrome, that's what that is. Javier Zanetti never aged as well.
Kelly Jones for the Stereophonics, can the singer of them.
Oh, yeah, aye.
He's another one. He is, he looks the exact same. Like, the exact same. Bizarre. But you get folk like that. But Thomas Müller's, he's quite synonymous with World Cups now as well. He's kicking down.
Well, before he retires, he makes sure he scores at a Euros. So the next Euros in 2024 is in Germany. He needs to stick around to get that because he still hasn't scored European Championships. He needs to do that. I mentioned a minute ago there, I just mentioned Javier Zanetti out of nowhere. Now, obviously, we'll have a seamless link on this show because that's interesting because he was the captain of that all-conquering Inter Milan side that I mentioned earlier. And that leads us on to the next one, a Schneid decision. You know who I'm talking about. I alluded to it at the start of the show. That all-conquering Interside, there was a guy in the midfield, Wesley Sneijder, who was the absolute linchpin and had easily the hottest year of his career, one of the best years that any footballer could have. Many people felt like he's got to win the Ballon d'Or in 2010. You know, he won the Champions League, he won Serie A, he won the Coppa Italia. He was, in that Inter team that were just destroying everyone in their path. He led Holland to the World Cup final. And he wasn't even the top 3 of the old Ballon d'Or voting. And as I say, when you look at what happened in 2018, when Luka Modric, who won the Champions League with Real Madrid, finished 3rd that season in La Liga with Real Madrid, and led Croatia to the World Cup final and won the Ballon d'Or. It's like, how did Wesley Sneijder get overlooked for this? Because he was fucking phenomenal at this tournament.
Mourinho effect?
2010. Maybe it could be, aye. Could
Played
be.
for Mourinho, you ain't going to be popular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Lionel Messi, say, won it in 2010, Barcelona, Pep, everyone's favourite. Mm-hmm.
Maybe he should have been in the Nike commercial.
maybe he was an Adidas advert. Maybe he was an Adidas athlete.
Liam is thinking outside the box, and he might not be wrong.
Aye, could be stuff like that, because I've got the numbers here of both him and Messi. So I say, so Messi's numbers and achievements in 2010: 64 appearances for club and country, 60 goals and 17 assists. He was a La Liga winner, a Champions League semi-finals with Barcelona, and a World Cup quarterfinals Argentina. But also, you take into account that Messi is a forward, so he's going to score more goals. Wesley Sneijder's numbers and achievements in 2010: 63 appearances for club and country, 13 goals, 16 assists, Serie A winner, Coppa Italia winner, UEFA Champions League winner, UEFA Super Cup winner, FIFA World Cup winner, all with Inter Milan, and a World Cup runner-up with the Netherlands. And didn't even get in the top 3 of the Ballon d'Or voting. It was Xavi, Iniesta, and Lionel Messi with the top 3 that year.
That's unbelievable.
Yep. Mental, isn't it? Because he was easily the best player on the and definitely best midfielder in the world at that point. I say Messi is a freak of nature even at that stage. But you know, when you look at what happened in 2018, I say Modric goes on and wins the Ballon d'Or for less than what Sneijder achieved in 2010, and it's like, how do they work these out?
That is. So I take it by 2010 is, it's already the Ronaldo Messi show by now. The monopolies and the duopoly is in place. I'm going to call it monopoly. It's not. It's a duopoly. That was in place by then.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris is right there with Lewandowski in 2020. I'm sure we'll get to that. One of the Bustalgia, he's spot on. That is fascinating when you look at those accolades. Someone who's won that many trophies has to be an integral part of the team that they're winning those trophies for.
Yep.
And that deserves recognition than it just being so simple as to go numbers. That can't be how everything's decided.
Yeah.
You know, success, medals. Right. I like that. I like that argument. Trophies. Start thinking like that. And if you've played week in, week out, or game in, game out, at these sort of, a runner-up at the World Cup with an unfancied Dutch side, he's took every team, including his international side, to the final of every competition he's been in, and he's played, let's be honest, nearly every minute of all those games.
Yep.
Oh fuck me, he did. That is definitely, that should be the definition of what Ballon d'Or recognition defines, Phil, in my opinion, anyway.
Liam, what about yourself? Do you think it was maybe? Cause I think the Ballon d'Or, is it no players that vote for it, or they make up some of the vote, like they vote for their fellow professionals. But again, it's like the Barcelona thing. Because I say the top 3 in the end were Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi. But I say maybe what Russ was saying, was it a Jose Mourinho thing? Maybe if it was professionals that were also voting in it, I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to reward him basically. Because say the numbers, Sneijder was unbelievable in 2010. It was a mental decision that he didn't get anywhere near it.
Well, it's like Academy Awards and music awards and stuff like that. The best person doesn't always win it. But if you look at the PR machine behind Messi, the PR machine behind Ronaldo, all those players, I don't think they were ready to have Sneijder in that group of players. He just showed out of nowhere. So the marketing machine wasn't ready to publicize and aggregate the amount of votes that you could probably get. So even if it was players or it was like people for the industry and that, I think you'll go towards the guys that Adidas and Nike and all that pushing forward, because that's where the money comes, the revenue comes back that way. I mean, Ballon d'Or, I don't even remember it before 2010. You know, I'm sure it was a thing, but now it's become a marketing vehicle for these players, and that adds value into their brands. And
that's very clever.
Aye.
You think differently, Liam, because you kind of crack with stuff like that. I always find that fascinating when you give a take like that. I get that. That's fair. I wouldn't have thought of it for that angle, but that makes total sense. Sneijder, because of the season Inter have had, for example, has been so unexpected. There's been no prep work done in his profile. There's that, like, they're not there yet with him. Do you know what I mean? And then suddenly he's had, in the space of a season, he's competed in 4 or 5 finals there, World Club ones, European ones. He's winning them all. He's got to a World Cup final, and he wasn't in there reckoning 12 months prior. So there's not enough
UEFA or FIFA. It's just follow the cash, right? Where's the cash gone? That's a good idea where the votes are gone, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Ryan Taylor's saying the same with De Bruyne as well. You know, that's another one that probably overlooked for, you know, because people can say, but De Bruyne's very similar to Sneijder, the best midfielder in the world, and we'll see how he does in the Ballon d'Or voting later this year. But I'll quickly run through how Sneijder did at the World Cup. So he's carrying amazing momentum going into this tournament after what he achieved with Inter. So in the group stages, he actually scored the winning goal against Shinsuke Nakamura's Japan as he beat them 1-0. In the round of 16, they play Slovakia, and he scores the winning goal with 5 minutes to go to knock them out. He has probably his defining moment of the tournament. They're playing Brazil, and of course Brazil are always the favourites at these tournaments. And after Brazil did take the lead in the game for, I believe, Robinho, Sneijder actually scores twice to drag Netherlands past the Brazils into the semi-final, where they would play Uruguay. And they were one of the best games of the tournament. And Giovanni Van Bronckhorst scores an absolute screamer of a goal in this game. They end up winning it 3-2, but Sneijder again scored in that game, scored the second one. So he's scored in every knockout game. He scored a goal in the group stages as well, and he's dragged them all the way to the final.
Interestingly, with Van Bronckhorst, I know there was a different left back who played the final, which we'll get. But was his career sort of transition occurring where he went from sort of central midfielder, quite a silky one, so he was starting to be a sort of left wing back and utilised totally different. He would have been 35 at this World Cup.
Yep, he was a left wing back, left back in this tournament.
And he was never that when he was at Rangers, for example. You know, he was very much in amongst everything good they did. He was a good player. I mean, you don't go for.
Is it okay to like him again?
I think I always did.
Hey, we like him for what he just did. What he just did for the last year, we love him.
I didn't dislike him as a player, and I couldn't really dislike him as a manager.
No, he was a good player. Very, very good player.
You're welcome back.
I actually think he's been guilty of being far too honest there.
Yeah,
it'll never work. It'll never work over there. It will never ever work over there. I mean, I think they need to go back to. They need to revert to staunch and fast. That's the only thing their fans will accept. They need to be born on these shores. They need to be UK. That's it. And they need to have some sort of staunch points in the back pocket, you know. And that's all they'll tolerate. They will not be patient with anyone from outside the UK. And they can deny that all they want. It is a fact.
But that's obviously Holland's path. I say Sneijder's dragged them there to the final. And Van Bronckhorst is actually their captain. But we'll come back to Holland because I mentioned there that they beat Uruguay in the semi-finals, and they were the pantomime villains because the next one, the hand of Sod, or the hand of God, the hand of Sod, and we know who we're talking about in this one because, particularly when you're a neutral like us, because Scotland don't tend to qualify for many tournaments, you've always got to have like storylines, protagonists and antagonists, something to hook you in and get you invested in this tournament. And due to quite a dirty reputation over the years, you could probably say that Uruguay are not a team who could ever be a protagonist. They're definitely an antagonist. And this was probably the ultimate antagonist moment for them because a player by the name of Luis Alberto Suarez Diaz, or more commonly known as just Luis Suarez, would announce himself on the world stage in quite a way. We would find out very quickly, a very gifted footballer, but Jesus Christ, a bit of a dark side to this guy. It would only get worse over the next few years. But Uruguay, they weren't the big talking point in their group because there was another team within their group, Group A with Mexico, France, and the host nation, South Africa. And Uruguay are always consistent qualifiers getting out of the group. So when they actually topped the group with 7 points, it was relatively unremarkable. There was nothing really stand out about it. However, France did have a massive meltdown in this World Cup, if you remember, because when they lost the second group game to Mexico, now this is the end of the eccentric Raymond Domenech.
Yes.
This is the end.
Yep.
After the game, in the dressing room, apparently, Nicolas Anelka called him a fucking son of a bitch. Basically, that was the words that he used. Raymond Domenech was like, you can't speak to me like that. Sent him home from the camp, sent him back to France. The French players did not like that, and they supported Anelka. And of course, being French, they did the most French thing that they can do. They went on strike, guys. That's what they did. They went on strike. There was images of fights at the training ground between one of the fitness coaches and Patrice Evra, literally throwing punches at each other, with Domenech having to get in the middle and hold them apart. They then put together a statement that they forced Domenech to read out in front of the assembled press, saying that they are going on strike and they stand by Nicolas Anelka. And then they had the incredible, surreal moment as they lost to South Africa in their final group game, where Thierry Henry and Patrice Evra, who were the real ringleaders behind this mutiny, were on the subs bench. They were sent to warm up as France were losing the game, and they just stood at the goalposts and just were like, not doing nothing. Just stood there. And I say the most French thing you could do, they just went on strike. But that was a remarkable moment, and I completely forgot about that until I was doing the research for this. And even when I wanted to talk about Uruguay, I was like, I totally forgot about all this French carry on. Yeah, this was the one where they had the absolute implosion. And to no surprise, after they got eliminated, Domenech was sacked. Even the French Prime Minister, Nicolas Sarkozy, summoned them to a meeting for them to explain themselves, basically. The French FA handed out bans and fines and whatnot. But yeah, even they had to appear before the French government to explain themselves. They were that angry with how that went. And it's like, you know, it's either France or Holland at a tournament. There's always some big implosion. And then this year it was France's turn. But do you remember all that, guys? It was fucking surreal to watch, where they're just standing at the goalposts, and Evra and Henry, just like, we're not warming up, we're not doing nothing. They just stood there with their arms crossed. I was like, wow. Oh my God. Player power, eh?
They're like the English of Europe, aren't they? France.
Aye, well, that's true. Aye.
Like, they always find a way to self-implode. And France had all some of the best players in the world at that time as well. I mean, they're in with a shout, but you know, when you're not in it, it's comical to watch, isn't it? It's like, oh Christ, that could be us. I mean, you know.
Well,
I find it weird though as well. Like, they're not. That's not synonymous really with their career, and yet they should have known a bit better by then as well.
Aye, definitely.
You know, like Henry was about 33 by then. You know.
Aye.
And there's one thing I think I can see Ryan Taylor mentioned Roy Keane could have been French. I disagree with that. Roy Keane walked out and left them to it. But if you're going to sit and put the training bib on, the training tracky top, whatever it is on, and you know, and spend your time and then refuse to go in the park, you ain't helping anyone then. You know, remove yourself from the equation, you're helping the manager. Right? You are. Because if the fallout's that bad, you don't want to play for him, get yourself fucking out of there. Right? Get out. And if they're going to literally let a manager think he can still call upon you, then he's losing a football match, asks you to warm up, and you refuse to do it. I think that's that's sad as well, because Henry's a World Cup winner with him. I know everyone would have been a wee bit later to the party, but I think the two of them, that's quite poor, because they were very much two of the most experienced players of the squad at that point.
Well, interestingly enough, you've got to think that if France didn't qualify for it, maybe Ireland could have done a better job in that group, because that, of course, was the qualifying campaign with the hand that knocked Ireland out of the playoff round where they played France. So, that was what...
Was that for that World Cup?
For that World Cup, yes. I'm saying, so maybe if Ireland had got it, they would have done a better job than France, because that was an absolute shambles them. And it's interesting that we're going to be talking about a handball in a minute, but that's interesting that Thierry Henry was also involved in a handball controversy in the qualifier as well, but that's for the same tournament, incredibly. But we'll go back to Uruguay now to say they've qualified out of the group. And yeah, they, as I say, it's a consistent thing with Uruguay. I say we'd be surprised if they qualify this year as well, but totally unspectacular. Nothing untoward about it, but it would all, of course, kick off in the knockout stages, because after they got through the round of 16, they would come up against Ghana in the quarterfinals. Now, at this stage, and the way it seemed to work was African teams have got a real unity all around the continent, because African teams don't traditionally do brilliant at World Cups. They're getting better over time, but Ghana were the last African nation standing in this tournament. So not only were Uruguay going up against the country of Ghana, they were going up against a continent, because everyone in Africa was behind them to win this, to become the first African team into the semi-finals. And after Suleiman Tari put them ahead, it was looking quite good until in the second half, Diego Forlan gets an equaliser for Uruguay. But the game goes into extra time, and it's deep in extra time. We're in the 119th minute at this point, and a cross comes in. Uruguay keeper completely flaps at it. A midfielder, I believe it was, for Ghana, heads the ball towards the goal. The keeper's completely lost at sea, but Luis Suarez is on the line, and he palms the ball away with both hands on the line and stops it from going in the net. And at first, he's got a real perplexed reaction when the referee basically pulls him up and is like, red card, you're off. And obviously, he starts with the floods of tears. He's walking off the park. He's got his shut up like that. He's walking off. He walks over the sideline, gets consoled by his manager. But he doesn't go up the tunnel and up to the dressing room like a lot of players do. He stops and he watches what happens. Because up steps Asamoah Gyan to take the penalty, and he hits the crossbar. And then Luis Suarez shows his real side. Did he have any remorse, really? Not from his reaction, because he properly gives it large. He celebrates like, fuck, man. Now, here's my I don't know if it's a controversial take. See the actual handball itself, I don't blame him for that. If I was in the same position, I think if anyone was in the same position...
I was just about to ask you.
I would do the same thing. I think all of us would do
in
the
that
same
position
thing.
for your country? Would you do that?
Yeah, I would.
It's just because he's a prick that you take him, like, you find it offensive because he is a prick.
Yeah.
Because he can't resist running about celebrating. But I think it's fair.
Are you okay with the celebrations? Do you think that's
yeah, I think if your country matters that much to you.
Yeah.
I think, why would you not celebrate like that? It's
Yeah,
your country. If that is your cause and that is something you're doing, and I get it to a point. He is a prick.
Like, Chris, the celebrations was amazing after the penalty miss.
You need to remember, this guy's a renowned, already by this point, wanker, right? And he has a face that's unlikable just because of the way he is, and his demeanour isn't likable. So I do think at times you're preempting like your judgment on it by, I didn't like him anyway. I think deep down, if that would be, I don't know. Dad, we go, look at the scenes, look what it means to him. Look what it meant to him for, Scotland at France 98. Is it not amazing that the Scottish players care that much? I think we'd all be guilty of that. So, yeah, I think the Suarez critique is just because he's a bell end. But I think what he did, I think we all would do. And we'd all jump about just as daft. And I don't care if that be in public or in the dressing room. Either way, how's he going to watch it? See what he's done. You need to remember the sacrifice he made. Of course, you're going to stay out and watch that penalty then unfold. That'd be insane just to just play it by ear. Like, come on.
What about yourself?
If it goes your way, you can't hold back.
Would you have done the same, Liam? Obviously, if you were on that goal line and it was Scotland in a similar situation, just throw your hand out and stop the ball from going in.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
Aye, and I celebrated as well if he'd blown it out of the bar. Absolutely. Sometimes you have to take one for the team, and that shows you're a team player. Of course, and then you want to see the rest of the boys do well, even if you're not involved in the next game, So I see it. I'd still be excited. Maybe afterwards when I thought about it, oh shit, I'm going to miss that game.
You're going to miss it. Yeah, that's true. Because
that depends then, doesn't it? Because that depends how self-absorbed you are and how much you actually want it for your country. You remember, it's not like Uruguay's like favourites to win. So that's what any wee advantage you can get. Yeah. And the self-sacrifice is fine. I think it's fair. I think it's fair, the whole thing. I find him, when I watch him celebrate, I go, cheating bastard. Just because I don't like him, though. That is the honest truth. That's all it comes down to. I think team-wise, it was the right call.
Well, obviously, Uruguay go on and win the penalty shootout in the end and go through the semi-finals. But guys, do you remember in the aftermath of this, the very weird virtual signalling type calls that were going on where people were saying they should change the rules and do a thing called a penalty goal. Do you remember this? Because when I was doing the research for this, I looked up on YouTube to get the clip. And funny enough, a clip came up from TalkSport from just a few weeks ago where they must have been talking about this incident. And the beacon of information is Jamie O'Hara and I believe that other one, Cundy, were talking about it and saying the goal should be allowed to stand. But let's think for a second. Let's say England were in that same position and somebody, Harry Maguire, throws his hands out and handballs it and gets sent off. You're telling me that they would have been happy for it to just be awarded as a goal when there's still a chance that Jordan Pickford might save the penalty or they might miss it, put it over the bar? It's like, at the time, it felt like a lot of people, as a virtual signal, they were pretending that they cared about it, when realistically, if you put the shoe on the other foot and put them in that situation, no, you can't be changing the rules to a penalty goal. It's like, come on.
Let's get real, Phil. Let's get real.
Yeah, there's some context around that stuff. Come on.
I know. It's nonsense. I remember at the time, though, there was a real outcry about it because people felt so sorry for Ghana and that. And it's like, that's just the game. That's just the way it is. You know, you've got to be streetwise in that. You took one for the team. Okay, yeah, it was a bit shitty, the celebrations and stuff, and it obviously rubbed people up the wrong way. But I say you're crowing about they should change the rules and just award a goal anyway. And it's like, well, see if your nation or your club is in that same position and one of your players takes one for the team and in the end the opposition team missed the penalty, you'll be fucking thankful to him. Exactly. So no, you want to change it to the rules where the ball was going in anyway, we'll just award it as a goal. And that's the thing that stops you from winning the trophy. It's like, fucking hell, man, come on. So I remember all the outcry when I was doing the research for this. I was like, shit, that's right, I remember all that kicked off. But as for the ballad of Luis Suarez, obviously he missed the semi-final against Holland, which they would lose 3-2. But his year would end on quite a controversial moment, and it would become incredibly a characteristic that will be linked with him forevermore, because in a game for Ajax in November 2010 against PSV Eindhoven, he bit a opposition player called Otman Bakal on the shoulder. Ajax initially fined him and suspended him for 2 matches, but the Dutch FA extended it to a 7-game ban, and while he was suspended, Ajax decided it's probably best we try and offload this guy, he's a bit of trouble. And Liverpool came in January 2011 and bought him. And incredibly enough, over the next 2 years, we would have he would bite Branislav Ivanovic in a Liverpool-Chelsea game. He would bite Giorgio Chiellini in an Italy-Uruguay game at the 2014 World Cup. And he would also racially abuse Patrice Evra. So, yeah, what a guy.
I think there's a couple of aspects that you need to be quite clear on. The saving on the line with your hand is, I think, fair game because you're doing it for your team, because he also knows the consequences that come with that. Even if Uruguay were to concede the penalty, you know, he's done actually fuck all by them, but he's definitely not playing the next game either way. So I think he's took one for the team there and given Uruguay their best chance. The biting stuff is where I think that is completely individualistic. I think that is something that comes naturally to him. I would hate to see what he did growing up. I think that is something that is an instinctive movement, because see, when you're under the spotlight, professional footballers are, particularly in the era he was, you know, 2010 after. If you're at Ajax, for example, then going to Liverpool, you know, you're used to a game, you know, that's got a minimum 30 cameras at it by this point, right? The football is now the most televised sport in the world, etc. He knows the score. He can't help it. He can't help but do what he does because, as I say, it is impulsive, it's instinctive. And that, to me, is traits I'll never want to relate to, guys. And that is something I would be chasing out of Celtic if he was a Celtic player. I would. And I think, you know, we took a lot of but remember El Hadj Diouf did the spitting thing in the Celtic fan? And I always look back at things like that. Oh, there we go. Oh, fuck. Ryan Taylor better than the see? Same wavelength, pal. That's amazing, because that tells me he's thinking the same, because you go, see what he did there? At his moment of rage, he did something that's what you do when you're pissed off. That wasn't out of nowhere. That is when he was raging, he said the wee red flag, spat on someone, and for Suarez it was biting. And I just think I've got no sympathy for any punishment he got at those times. I mean, the racial thing with Evra was a really odd one, because Kenny Dalglish got that way off the mark. And the reason I'll tell you why is obviously they actually took that to hearings based on the word Negro being used, which was okay. That's okay in Uruguay. right? That's what they're saying. I don't give a fuck. See, if it was okay in Uruguay, why on earth would you be hurling it and pointing it in his face like that 7 times? That's the difference. It's a little bit context. I think to use racial slurs in some countries and then try to use it as a technicality where I'm from, which by the way takes you back to where we are right now with Qatar. Let's get there. You're in a country that doesn't approve that, so either respect the rules or you fuck off. You know that. I think that's also fair. So to even use that, and why Kenny Dalglish has made them all wear t-shirts before a game.
That's right.
And really backed him to the tilt. I think there's backing your players to a tilt, and then I think there's defending the indefensible. And I feel like that was he was trying to square a circle at this point. You couldn't square, Kenny. You're gonna need to let this play out and let him get the whatever comes with it. And no matter what, linguistics a lawyer can use about, the terminology getting used, look at the context of it. He is shouting in his face from a yard away. That word. See, if it's not offensive, why would that be the word he's shouting in that manner in his face? Like, do you know what I mean? So he's not using a friendly term, and he's in that sort of emotion. So I think then I was left like, he is the prick I thought he was. And I think for King Kenny, it was a bit of just like a guy who's out of touch with, where the world's really needing to go right now. And I think he went, and by the way, not just out of touch, that's probably doing a favour. He went way beyond that in his defence. All of them wearing Luis Suarez t-shirts. For someone who's shouting, like, what the fuck are you thinking, mate? I didn't understand all that. I don't know if he was getting told to do that, but I don't know. I didn't get that whole episode. But yeah, as for when it comes to Suarez, the handball thing, I'll let him away with, and I suppose the only thing he was guilty of is I think he is a prick at the time. So his celebrations annoyed me because he's a bit of a prick. But all that stuff after that, no for me.
Totally.
Yeah, I think the guy's just a piece of shit, right? I mean, on the line, Matt O'Reilly seems a lovely boy. He got called for a handball. That's no a big deal. But the rest of the stuff, and again, as I was saying about Mourinho earlier, these pieces of shit managed to fall upwards. This is a guy that, racially abused players, fucking bit 2 players, and manages to get a dream switch to Barcelona. It just shows you the moral compass of football. You want to draw that back to Qatar and all that.
Becomes one of the parts of one of the best forward lines in recent years. I mean, when El Clasico was at its peak a few years ago, when it was Real and Barca going at it with Bale, Benzema, and Ronaldo against Suarez, Neymar, and Messi. It was incredible, and it was like Suarez was a vital part of that machine. And it's like, he went for Liverpool, went up the way, got to the best club side in the world at that point. Mental.
I'm a bit. There's quite a lot of comments coming in saying the spitting thing's worse. The reason I brought up the spitting thing with Joof is because I think it's a dreadful act. I'm not convinced I'm comfortable being in a camp, though, where I'm going to sit there and go, oh, no, it's not as bad as spitting. I'm not convinced. I think it hurts a lot more. I think it could leave scars. Holyfield's example, it can leave you a half a lug, and I think it's just as cowardly. It's just as cowardly. There's not one... I think you need to be quite careful with that one. If you're comparing it to spitting, it's a pretty low bar to be comparing it with anyway, but... Yeah, I don't think it's that relevant a comparison. I think they're both absolutely disgusting acts. And the fact of the number of times he's done it, I think Suarez is he's just a horrible little bastard. And players like him get older and you start getting more respect because you forget these things and you start looking at football more, and it's like, well, fuck that. If you actually take him back to some of these wee acts that he did, he was a horror.
Aye. Although obviously this about the comments coming, kudos to the guys with all the biting puns. To be fair, there's been some good ones so far, like he bit off more than he can chew, stuff like that. He had a chip on his shoulder. Well, Chiellini had something on his shoulder that day when Suarez sank the Nationals into him anyway, I'll tell you that much. But we'll move on from Luis Suarez. Uruguay got papped out in the semi-finals, and Luis Suarez's career only seemed to go a bit crazier after that. But no, we'll move on to the final point then. Obviously, the Spanish Revolution. We talked about this in Euro 2008 one because Spain won the first of their 3 trophies. And Russell, at the time, you and I, even though that Spanish team in the 08 one was a bit different, it was under Luis Aragonés. They played 2 up front, 2 strikers, out-and-out ones, good ones as well. Torres and Villa, guys that just know where the back of the net is. But in 2010, it was all changed. It was now Vicente Del Bosque that was the manager, former Real Madrid manager. And times were changing because he had a new style of how he wanted to play, basically mirroring what Pep was doing at Barcelona. But he had basically half the Real Madrid team and half of the Barcelona team wanted to play Barca style. Now, I said in the 2008 episode that we did, I am not a huge fan of the tiki-taka style football, particularly the Spanish national team. However, I will caveat it with this. Barcelona, I enjoyed watching because they had Messi. So they would do all the little triangles of play, all the sideways passing and whatnot. But then he would give it to Lionel Messi and he could beat 5 or 6 players on his own, score a wonder goal and get you out your seat. Spain didn't have that player, though. They would just continue to strangle teams out of games, just with pass it sideways, make them chase the ball, and just walk the ball into the net. And it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, this isn't Greece 2004 where they've got 10 men behind the ball and hit you in the counter. But watching that, I get as much thrills out of watching that Spanish team as I do when I watched Greece in 2004. Genuinely, like I understand there's a lot of work in it, where they have to keep moving and stuff like that. But honestly, there was no players in that team that really got me.
Football, Phil. It's textbook football.
Yeah.
It's when they try to turn football into a science as opposed to a sport. That was the beginning of that.
Yeah.
And it was all numbers based. Everything's numbers based, and you know the amount of possession you have. If you've got that much, then they can't score goals, etc. And they're trying to, I think they had good enough players to play with a wee bit of magic in them. It fucking didn't entertain me. I found the whole thing a bit dull. I suppose it's when you're releasing sports science take over football like it now has. I think this was Spain were utilising that, and as you rightfully point out, I think a lot of it taken for the Barcelona model. It's right under the nose, and then they're doing it with maybe a selection of it. They're going, well, actually, we might have even better options at our disposal to deploy it. I don't know. It's very interesting because 2010 is also the summer we talked about Jose Mourinho putting it all to bed and winning it into Milan. And I suppose I think there's an argument a lot of people would adopt with that, and they would say, well, Spain winning the World Cup was victory for the good guys, and Mourinho's was for the bad guys. And I like to think that I'm glad there was a balance of the two biggest trophies that summer. The World Cup goes to the tiki-taka, as it's called, and the European Cup goes to teams still playing with soul, spirit, and by the way, a hell of a lot of discipline and one hell of a whatever that tactics masterclass that was given to them. That was a lot to take on as well. I think tiki-taka is something that then kind of you've seen it spread. I think it's now I don't know if Liam agrees with this, but I do really believe that now when you see Joe Hart having to do a goal kick 5 yards to his left, I think tiki-taka was the origin of all this sort of stuff, and it doesn't always sit comfortably with me.
It's all right. I mean, I didn't understand it at first, and people, it's tiki-taka, right? And then I was just watching the ball just getting recycled between the fullbacks, and I knew more of the fullbacks' names than I did the forwards because the ball was only up there for 2 or 3 times every 10 minutes. It was always just the fullbacks recycling it back forward to the midfield. Need to watch. Give me a good old boot and run, snotters and studs up and Scottish football any day.
I think it's changed, though. I think it's changed football. And I'm not always convinced for the best. I think, I'll tell you one thing about tiki-taka. My honest opinion is that it's killed modern-day centre-halves and the old-school modern-day centre-forward. Now, people could say, oh, well, that was shite football. But was it? Because I actually found football a very endearing sport for many reasons, not just the ability people had with their 2 feet. I also think up there, the mental fortitude, the mental games, the emotion, the strength, the battles, the personal battles that you knew weren't just based on, who could do more keep-uppies. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't always about techers. I know it's called tiki-taka, but it should be tiki-takers because now it's all about technique. And of course, you could say, well, that's the sport that you're in, and that should really define it ultimately. But I always feel sport's got other layers to it, like an onion, And I always think there's certain layers to sport that you shouldn't try and get rid of, and you shouldn't try and turn into a science. And I think the battles I've spoken about many times, like Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira, they don't exist in football now because that would now be a technical battle as opposed to what was up there. And I think since the 2010 sort of era, when you look back, Chiellini is a centre half who really stands out as being someone who could have been around in the 90s, the 2000s, and before. There's not many others. I think Diego Costa as a striker was one that you could go, he could have fitted in previous years. Not many more are coming to mind, and I think it's quite sad that sometimes football's moved on. But I also have to then take a step back and go, there's a generation who started watching my 1994 World Cup is their 2010 World Cup, and they've just seen football steadily improve in their mind without any memories of these physical battles with Chris Sutton up front and stuff. They don't know it. And they may well see it as a sport that's only going on an upward trajectory. Since 2010, I suppose I need to bite my tongue when it comes to things like that. But for me personally, I think it was the beginning of the end of football being the contact sport as we knew it.
I think what it did was it ushered in a whole different generation of football type players that were athletes that could play football. You know, all they had to do was have a great engine and be able to hit a 6-yard pass. You know, nobody was doing that run looking for space or, you know, I think what we're trying to do with Ange ball, I love that long ball that comes through the middle where somebody sees an opportunity of space. I've seen Greg Taylor do it, seen Anthony Ralston do it. Like guys that can, you know, Jota to, you know, Kyogo in the UEFA Cup last year. That bit where you find that perfect pass and get it through, and it's high risk. You know, and we found out in the Champions League. But I like that type of football. That's why I like Canada in the World Cup this year as well.
They were very, very impressive. They were very much similarities there to Celtic and the way we play at the moment. So I was very impressed with Canada the other night. Again, that's what I want to see. You know, teams that are like going forward instead of passing it sideways. Because to describe tiki-taka as best as it's always about making the opponents chase the ball, tire them out, and always keep moving yourself to create pockets of space. I say it's a style that Pep Guardiola was perfecting at that point, and Vincente Del Bosque basically went, I love some of that, thank you very much. The style could be pleasing on the eye with the right personnel. As I said, if Messi was in the team at Barca, it was good to watch because he was different from everybody else. But the whole system is reliant especially on Sergio Busquets, Xavi and Andres Iniesta, the Barcelona three in the middle. They are like so pivotal, both Barcelona and the Spanish national team, in playing this because everything goes through them and it's constant little passes between them and moving up the park. But what we also got is evolved over time into what we now call the false nine, where you would sacrifice a forward to get another midfielder in the park. Of course, Cesc Fabregas ends up playing as an auxiliary forward as the false nine. That's the type of things that would evolve from tiki-taka.
And that to me that's not progressive to me. I mean, if you starting games of football with, we talk about the three when it was Larson, Satter, and Hearts, and if you get to the stage where there's none, don't tell me that's progressive for football. I mean, that's fucking nonsense.
And by the way, I played the game without a forward before that. Craig Levine done it before them.
Yeah, well, aye.
Yep.
But if my memory serves me right, Leicester City, when they won the league in 2016, the reason they caught all the teams off guard was the last 5 years they're going to try to copy the Spain model in the EPL. It suddenly went to a one-striker rule, if you like, and Leicester went 4-4-2.
Yes, that was it. Big long balls up to Jamie Vardy. Skillful wingers like Riyad Mahrez. Yeah, it was exciting. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, there's a way to conquer it. If they're all doing the same thing, do something different. And I don't know. I just find it a wee bit at times. I think trying to negate a team to have strikers in it. I mean, really, if you want to call teams that play long ball football dinosaurs, then what is that? Yeah. Or what is that? That's not fun for anyone.
No, I can't enjoy it at all. And also,
and one-touch passes in your own half are all great, but as Liam says, what's the risk?
Well,
you only see brilliance.
Paul Dyer's asking, is Morelos a false nine? Well, he's a different type of false nine, to be fair. He's definitely a false something anyway, no doubt about
Paul
it.
Dyer, well done, son.
Nice
Well
one.
done.
Now,
That was
incredibly though, despite this revolution that's coming with Spain, they actually start this World Cup in very unspectacular fashion, where they lose 1-0 to Switzerland in the opening game. But afterwards, they would get their shit together. They beat Honduras 2-0 and beat Chile 2-1. However, take a picture, folks, get a snapshot of this, because it's the last time that Spain will score more than a goal in a game in this tournament, because in the knockout stages, tiki-taka is in full swing, where it is a case of they will strangle their opponents out of the game. They will get their goal and they will hold on to the ball. They win in the round of 16 against Portugal, 1-0. David Villa scores the only goal. They beat Paraguay 1-0 in the quarterfinals. Again, even though it took up to the 83rd minute, David Villa again is the goal scorer. In the semi-final, they play Germany and once again win 1-0. Carlos Puyol scores a quite impressive diving header at a corner where he just throws himself at it. He's like, get the fuck out of my way. Nobody's stopping me for scoring this header. And again, Germany can't get the ball back off them after that. And Spain would go on and win it 1-0. We get into the final, obviously. So now when you talk about storylines for neutrals, we've got Spain against Holland in the final. The two best nations to have never won the World Cup at that point. So that's about to change because one of them is going to win it. How on earth, though, would Holland combat this tiki-taka? I'll tell you how they've done it. By kicking the living shit out of Spain. Summed up perfectly when Nigel de Jong, who's currently a pundit on ITV, jumped up and fly-kicked Xavi Alonso right in the chest, to which English Premier League referee Howard Webb deemed it just a bookable offence. Holland racked up 9 bookings in the final and a red card.
And is it right? Resident Rangers fan Bob McBob said, in fairness, about an hour and a half ago, he said, is this not the tournament Van Bommel is a hatchet man but doesn't actually get booked the whole tournament?
It's unbelievable. He was an absolute beast, also bordering psychopathic, and he was massive as well too. I
thought he was the prick's pricklium. I didn't like him.
And him and Jong, just something horrible about the pair of them. Stink.
Who was the Dutch manager?
Oh, it was. Oh God, he was Euro 2020.
I love this, Liam. Take a photo. Phil doesn't know the answer.
He was the manager at Euro 2012 as well and completely flopped there. But he's one of these ones where, like, because now they've had a rotating thing with Koeman, Van Gaal and Advocaat have just basically went in a wee sort of circle. And they've had, I think, Van Gaal's in his 4th stint as manager. But for the last decade, it's been like this little rotation. But this guy is like the exception. Van Marwijk. Bert Van Marwijk. There you go. I just came in my head there, but it's like after him, it's just basically Advocaat comes back to do the job. Then it's Van Gaal does it, and then it's Koeman, and then it rotates again and goes back to Advocaat, and now it's back to Van Gaal again. It's weird how the Dutch national team had it. It's Bert Van Marwijk, I believe. It just came back to me there. So there you go. I dug myself out of that one there. And I didn't Google it because my hands were literally on the screen, so you can't see I was Googling it. I wasn't typing nothing. It just came back to me.
No, we believe you, mate. We believe you, Phil. We believe you. You're back in your room, mate. You're back in your room. Now you know how sudden death feels every Monday.
Yeah, Monty's backed me up saying, there you go. I know. Tell me about it. Now, remarkable moment
Cheers, Monty.
In the 105th minute of this final, if you are a Celtic fan, because Giovanni Van Bronckhorst gets subbed off, the captain, gives the armband, obviously, to Rafael van der Vaart as he goes off. And who would come on to replace him? The bold Edson Braafheid would come on in the 105th minute and be in the World Cup final after a disastrous 6 months at Celtic, summed up by that performance at Pataudry where we drew 4-4, and he just seemed to go missing. He was like Barisic at the back post. He was just going missing at back post balls all the time. He was fucking honking that day. He was honking in general, but he was a Bayern Munich player. Bayern Munich actually bought him and loaned him to us. Obviously, they realised he was crap and loaned him to us. We're like, we're getting a player for Bayern. This is incredible. But no, he was rotten for us, and he got onto the park in the World Cup final, replacing Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. There you go. That's who gets subbed off for him.
Incredible. It's incredible. I mean, that January, right, in 2010, which I know will probably not get overly covered, right, on Bustalgia. We know there's many reasons why. I just want to say a big thanks, by the way, Monty, for that comment. That's really, really kind, mate. I appreciate it, and I'm sure we all do. Legend, mate. But I do believe when it comes to that window, like, Braafheid came with pedigree. Like, if you're coming for Bayern Munich, you're coming with pedigree.
Yep.
There was Robbie Keane, obviously, the real headline that was Paul Slane. And there was, of course, a guy who I think is really maligned as well. Remember Dimanche Kamara?
Dimanche Kamara.
He did that celebration.
Yes, he did it at the exact same time.
I thought I liked him.
Scored a good goal against Dunfermline in the Scottish Cup. I remember that.
He gets pelters, and I'm like, no, he could play. He was all right. He was everything that Fortuny, who joined in the summer, wasn't. He was going to score you goals. See if he'd been there the whole season. See every opportunity that Fortuny got that he got. He would have taken it. He'd have taken 1 and 2. Kamara was a player that I thought would have got. I thought it's not as good as Tommy Johnson.
Do you remember Fortuny's celebration? The writing the headlines. Remember that one?
Because one of the writing about you bastard. 20 games till you got a goal. You know what I mean? But I thought Kamara came in and did well then. Robbie Keane did exceptionally well, but as you maybe expect for a player of that ability. But I think Braithwaite was one that was a weird one. I think Braithwaite, you also need to remember, couldn't have done right for wrong because the season's going Pete Tong, right?
Yep.
And I know he didn't do great, by the way, but he was one of those ones. He's come from Bayern Munich. The second we, don't have a great performance, he's getting in the neck, mate, because he's came from Bayern Munich. You need to remember that as well. When the season's going Pete Tong, they're then they're the collateral damage. They're not the real damage. The real damage to me was the likes of Fortuny. Fortuny was utter shite. I don't give it anyone says. He was murder. He was the big signing. Nguemo started well, shat the bed when he got a bit of competition for his jersey. He looked good the first few games and then Mowbray punted him. It was weird that. But I think in January, whoever came in then, I think they were collateral damage. Robbie Keane was always going to get a free pass. And by the way, he didn't need a free pass because he did so well. But I thought Kamara, he to me looked like rewind 6 months and bring him in the summer instead of Fortuny. And I like that. Braithwaite, I mean, I know he wasn't great, Phil. I don't know what you're saying at times. He was getting left behind that game. But let's be honest. I mean, his failures at Celtic were way over-exaggerated, I think, by the context of that season. That's just my opinion, if I'm being honest. But
they deemed him good enough to take the World Cup.
Sorry, he's one of the players. See, if he'd never been in the World Cup final, nobody would have ever even spoke about him again. John Kenny or who's the other one? Jeremy Toljan,
Yeah. It was like he was made worse though because of that recognition he was getting.
Exactly.
It was like that made him worse in our eyes, eh? And I was like, I don't remember him being all that bad. I think there's definitely examples, Philip will definitely not bow to his knowledge on them because I respect your take a lot of the time, Phil, because your memory's sharp as a tack. But I don't remember it over the piece being all that rotten. I think the fact it's in a World Cup final. Then after on the back of that season makes it all rotten, if that makes sense.
It's just one of the things. He just happens to be a victim of circumstance. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time at Celtic at that point, but he's just associated with that failure as one of them. No, he wasn't anywhere near the worst offender, and he happens to be in that Holland side that got to the final, and it just so happened Van Bronckhorst had to get subbed off. He's a left back, he comes on to replace him. Just so happens that's the way it works.
Irony all over the place.
I mean, look at this. Right? Like Dejan Lovren's played in a World Cup final. I've never really rated Dejan Lovren. I don't think he's all that. But Croatia were in the 2018 final, and Dejan Lovren was in a World Cup final, so it can happen.
The centre-back.
Sort of like average players could get to a World Cup final or a Champions League final because of the team that's around them. But Braithwaite didn't start the final. I've seen people say like he started that final. No, he didn't. He came on late in extra time. But unfortunately, only a few minutes after coming on, Spain got their opening goal where the Dutch resistance was finally broken down. With extra time coming to an end, 116th minute, penalties looming. They managed to find a wee crack of space in the back line. Cesc Fabregas threaded a nice football to Iniesta, who found just enough time and space to take a touch and fire it past Stekelenburg to give Spain the lead late in extra time, and they would go on and win the World Cup, and that would be number 2 out of 3 trophies in a row for this Spanish national team. But that is the 2000 how the World Cup in 2010 how it ended. Andres Iniesta scores the winner late on in extra time, and Spain are now the world champions. Tiki-taka prevails.
Yes. I think we went on, though, from Celtic's point of view. I think that was after that World Cup, as exciting as summer, I think maybe because of the lows that we spoke about there, I think we wanted to have as exciting a recruitment build that summer than I can remember.
Yeah.
Because see, the thing was with Angie's, nobody expected fuck all off them, right? So obviously with hindsight, it looks amazing, right? Angie's, but I think Lennon's one then. We were getting linked there with big signings. You know what I mean? Even if they were a bit older, big signings, and everyone he brought in seemed to just have right. I think 2010 went on to. We did the opposite of tiki-taka under Lenny. I think he got the last generation of Celts that came in, even though they were very young, that still played with all the traits that tiki-taka was about to take over.
Yeah, because that's coming up next week's one. We'll be doing Euro 2012, although Russell, well, you'll be obviously doing your MCing.
Yes. MCing now, mate.
Yes, MCing next Friday. So Liam,
Good cause.
you and I, we'll get somebody else from the team in who's got fond memories of Euro 2012. Because from what I remember, I quite enjoyed Euro 2012. That is, of course, spoiler, another Spanish victory anyway. But that is the Balotelli tournament, the semi-final, when he absolutely obliterates Germany. Does the flex his muscles pose, just stands there, just typical Balotelli. Can't wait to talk about him. Oh, I wouldn't go and work for either of them, Gary.
Gary says better get Phil on a long-term contract. Look, he's already signed up, mate. Trust me. I've got see the reason you never see Phil's left hand is because it's stapled to his fucking desk, right?
Oh, dearie me.
Don't you worry, Gary. You'll be going nowhere. Big boy.
Shall we close on the trivia, gentlemen? Remember that?
I've got a few.
I have got one.
Good stuff. Okay, so the question was, for anyone that came in late, it was regarding African goal scorers at World Cup. So I'm looking for the top 5 African goal scorers across time at World Cup. So
I've got guesses.
Go for it.
Have you got any guesses, Liam?
I've got one. I'll go with 2. I asked you one if any of them had a Celtic connection. George Weah?
No, George Weah, Liberia. I've never qualified for the World Cup.
And then what about Roger Miller?
Yeah, Roger Miller's 5 goals. Roger Miller.
Yes, mate.
He's second on the list.
So I've got a few, and I'll be honest, they're not picked based on complete memory. I'm going to say Jan.
Asamoah Gyan is the top scorer.
Even though he missed a penalty. Yes.
Yep.
I want to say the old Everton striker, Yakubu.
No, good guess by the good outside the box thing, but no, Yakubu's not in there. No.
And I've said Kanu as well, which is now making me really less likely. See, he was my more doubtful
Kanu's not there. There is a Nigerian in the top 5, by the way. There is a Nigerian in there.
Interesting. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay. I've got Diouf.
No, not Diouf. Nope.
But there's a Senegalese one.
There is a Senegalese
Papa
one.
Diop.
Papa Bouba Diop has got 3 goals. He is 5th.
And I've got a Bonaventure Kalou.
No, what a mouthful that is, but no, he's not on there. So there's 2 more that you need.
Okay. So Samuel Eto'o.
Samuel Eto'o is correct. He is number 4 on the list. So number 3 on the list is a Nigerian player. He's got 4 goals at the World Cup.
Bolton?
No, it's not JJ Okocha.
Oh, okay. Shit.
One of the West. Taribo West? No, he was a
Taribo West.
Oh, Taribo, what a guy.
No, I got
1 or 2 legend, free transfer.
Oh, it's tricky.
Ikpeba? No, the thing is, you've heard of this guy, but he's not in that golden generation of Nigeria players like Kanu and all that, but you'll definitely know this guy.
Yeboah
was Ghanaian, was he? Tony Yeboah?
Oh, I don't know.
But it wasn't him anyway. It's not him.
But it's later Nigerian.
It's a bit later than Nigeria. Yeah, later World Cup, but you'll know him. Played alongside Effie, that generation of Nigerian.
Oh, Yobo.
No. Getting closer though.
Shit.
Of course Patrick McLaughlin's got it. Of course Patrick McLaughlin put it in the comments. Of course. Patrick, mate. You get you on the show, mate.
I've not seen it.
Honestly. He's actually dynamite at these things. Of course.
Who else is there? Is this just the one left?
Just one. This Nigerian player who's third on the list.
I will bow to Patrick's knowledge.
He is a winger, 2014 and 2018 World Cup, Ahmed Musa, who played for one of the Russian teams like CSKA Moscow, but he scores an absolute worldie against Argentina in the 2014 World Cup, which is a tournament when Effie Ambrose was having to mark Lionel Messi, which was quite funny in itself. But yeah, there's a game in that one where he scores 2 against Argentina, one where he cuts in from the wing and bends it into the net. Absolute screamer. But Ahmed Musa is indeed the correct answer.
Could have played that all night. I wouldn't have got that.
Ahmed Musa is that. So yeah, Asamoah Gyan, Roger Miller, Ahmed Musa, Samuel Eto'o, and Papa Bouba Diop is the fifth
Shake
one.
Hands, Liam. I think me and you did all right there, pal.
You did brilliant, mate.
There you go, lads. So that is the end of the 2010 South Africa World Cup episode of Bustalgia. Yeah, so that's us back to doing a few wee Worlds and Euros ones. So yeah, next week, say Euro 2012. But Russell, do you wish to tell the viewing audience what else is coming up on the bus over the next few days?
I'm going to go now, right, lads? Cheerio.
Cheers, Liam.
Cheers, mate. No worries, mate.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
No worries. Never worry, mate.
No worries.
So I think this week will be this weekend. It's weird when there's none of that football stuff happening, you know.
Aye. Look at that background, by the way. Table Mountain in Cape Town. Look at that.
That's good.
Stunning.
That's good.
Stunning.
But yeah, we'll do. We'll get Kaiser on Sunday for a fun day Sunday with Kaiser. I will manage him as the best of my abilities. He's a good boy. And I'll have Gregor on talking about obviously the charity that he's doing a hell of a lot of work for right now. The Brain Tumor charity that, you know, he's very close to his target. With a little help from the bus, we might just get to that target before the actual Shave the Head night, which I'm hosting. He's going to come on and talk about that, and he'll talk about Celtic as well. And then we'll be back to the Monday Club. But yeah, I think sometimes you can oversaturate it when there's no football, and don't take the piss out the viewer. You know what I mean? I think sometimes you need to go, look, it's good to have, it's good to have content, but don't do content for content's sake all the time. I think sometimes you see accept that, you know. But yes, we will still be active all week, and by the way, huge thanks to everyone who's watched tonight and watched like the past 5 days or even the past 2 weeks, because without Celtic on, Phil, you know, you're asking a lot of folk to spend the time in our company. You know, they must be off their fucking head. And I really appreciate that. And it tells you that they're enjoying it on the bus, and that means the world to us. So, no, I appreciate it. I know it won't always be that easy. Oh, Liam McGandles is on Tuesday night.
Do you know, I was waiting for you to say that, and I was like, I don't want to spoil it, but it's funny how you just went, oh, by the way, Liam McGandles.
Liam McGandles is on Tuesday night. That's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge, like huge. I've not told anyone that yet, have I? So Liam McGandles,
you have now
on Celtic Park. No, but he's on. He's joining us Tuesday, and do you know what the best thing is? He says, "Boys, say Tuesday's my cargo night. Is that okay?" I went, "You mad?" I went, "Are you mad?" I went, "You'll fit in just fine."
Oh, yeah,
so
man.
Liam McGandles, who we now associate with being on Celtic Park, the only guy ever when it becomes You'll Never Walk Alone to, rather than it be Jerry the Pacemakers, it's him just doing an acoustic guitar. We have got Liam McGandles on. And I know Ryan Taylor saying sound the klaxon. I am very intrigued by an Aston Villa podcast right now that managed to get Martin O'Neill on this sort of format, and they only had 4,000 subs.
Okay, that sounds promising, right?
That intrigues me massively. So I've tried to follow one of them on Twitter. I'm not privy to whether he's actually accepted the follow or not. I can't really remember his name, to be honest. But he did that only a few weeks ago. I mean, if we could get him, I mean, the world stops, obviously. But I watched these. I don't know if you know. I find that. Monty, that is just too good. So we're gonna do charity work and we'll keep it in house and we'll put it on social media. That is too good, Monty. You are too sharp, but that is the truth. But yes, Ryan Taylor, it's the dream. But there has to be a way. If any of you can help me get it, I will bring you on the show with me to do it. right? If anyone can sort that or help sort it or thinks they've got an inroad, then let's do it. But he did a show with a Villa podcast a few weeks ago.
Aye.
They've only got 4.1 thousand subs, and he was excellent on it. And actually, I watched the whole thing, and I just thought, how the fuck did they get him? You know? And it turns out the two guys who did it are Irish and Celtic fans as well. So I have tried to give one of them a follow, and I think Martin would be the dream. But that's not to take away what we've got this week. I think Liam McGrandles is a real move by the channel, and I think Liam's a great boy. Someone that epitomises everything that's good about Celtic. You know, the underdog making it, and I'll be delighted once he comes on. I think everyone will enjoy that because we'll talk about his music, we'll talk about his rise, we'll get some backstage info though, because this is a guy who does the New York convention with Celtic. Remember, he's been on those flights with the squad, with the players over there when it's the winter break, with managers beside him, etc. He's done duets with Rod Stewart. We can get some real good, and I know how to get a story of anyone, particularly if they're having a carry out. So it is not to be missed.
That's box office, mate.
Boys say McGrandles this Tuesday. Don't worry, it's not a duet. I won't be singing, but yeah, he will be on, and I think that's one to get in your diaries.
That's I'm looking forward to that one. I'll be watching that one eagerly on Tuesday. So yeah, I didn't know. I mean, when I was teeing you up there to announce stuff, I was like, he told me Lee McGrandles was coming on. Has he forgot or has something changed? I didn't want to say anything in case I blurted it, but good stuff. Good stuff, mate.
My brain's a wee bit still getting there.
You're getting there, mate. You're getting there. But no, honestly, that wraps up the 2010 World Cup show. Thanks for everyone that's watched it. Again, echoing what Russell said, no, Bustalgia in itself is a concept show that we began doing in the summer. Obviously, the Celtic ones are going to get more views because it's Celtic content in day. So the fact that you have came on here to listen to us waffle about a quite unappealing World Cup, to say the least, but it was still fun to talk about it. But yeah, this is how Bustalgia started. If you only subscribed to the channel like September, October, and you missed all that, this is literally how Bustalgia. This is the first few episodes where this format talking about World Cups and Euros. So yeah, again, thanks for everyone that watches it and makes it what it is. I appreciate it so much. It's phenomenal. I love doing all the research for it. Love it every single week, and look forward to getting my teeth into Euro 2012 next week. That'll be fun. So yeah, the Ukraine, that's topical. So yeah, Ukraine and Poland were the hosts. So there you go.
But yeah, if you could ask if there's any show tomorrow, I'm going to David Logue, who we all are familiar with. Remember, I'm going to his barber tomorrow. I'm meeting his dad, who's obviously a regular contributor. They're going to be there, so that'll be good fun. I think there might be a wee bit of content could happen. That'll be recorded, but we might get a wee bit of content out there, and then he'll be doing his first hosting job on the Sunday Blether.
He will. The captain now.
No. And by the way, well deserved, because David, again, I've always had plans for you all, like, who does he becoming a presenter? And I think like someone like Mark, it's a compliment to Matt. I'm like, no, mate, we're going to build your character totally differently, because he's not meant to be a presenter. We could dilute Mark by that. And I think him becoming the judge is the first signs of that sign that you like want. And I think David will do very well as the host of the Blether. He's the only one sober at the fucking lot is on a Sunday morning, so
yeah. Oh, aye, something. But no, it's going from strength to strength, mate. And I say Tuesday will be box office on, so everyone get your popcorn out for that one. Lee McGrandles and Russell on Tuesday. That'll be phenomenal, mate. But yeah, busy few days coming up for the bus. So yeah, we are out now. Russell, I'll let you tee up the outro, because it's going crazy for me at this end. I don't know if it'll do the same for you, but yeah, I'll let you tee up the outro, mate.
Well, the outro will be, why not, for a wee bit of content, because I'm feeling a wee bit back to myself. We could do a bus stop tonight, Phil. I've got a few things I could get off my chest. We could do a bus stop that's PG.
Right, okay.
We did one last week. My eyes are like fucking saucers, man. I don't know what I was thinking that could go live. I was out way with it, mate. Like, I'm like, I cannot go out there, man.
That one's lost to the archives.
Well, it's in the archives though, and it will be in the lost tapes when we release that. Once I'm, You know, once this has all been said and done, we'll
Yeah.
release it then. But we could do a wee bus stop tonight, so there's some
Okay.
content that goes out tomorrow morning and something like that. That'd be cool.
Okay.
But as for tonight, it's been Bustalgia. It's been 2010. It has been the shitest World Cup of them all. It has been the year that the Vuvuzelas made a racket. But tonight you've been stuck with the dulcet tones of myself, Phil Mcginlay, and Liam Punk. Warlord.
Yep.
Good night.
Right.
Is that over?
You haven't teed it up, have you?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.